The 15th complaint landed on HR Director Patricia Hawthorne's desk at 4:47 p.m. on a Thursday, just as I was wrapping up my analysis of our quarterly projections. Through the glass walls of the conference room, I watched Patricia's face cycle through confusion, irritation, and finally, grim determination as she read it. Isabella Torres doesn't represent our company values, the complaint read. Her appearance is unprofessional and distracting. We deserve better leadership than someone who shops at Goodwill. I knew because I'd seen Bradley compose it at his desk, making sure others could see his screen, making sure they'd add their signatures to the growing petition to have me removed from the senior analyst position I'd earned through 6 years of 80-hour weeks and breakthrough strategies that had saved Prometheus Tech Corp millions. My name is Isabella Torres, and I wear thrift store clothing by choice, not necessity. This is the story of how a $12 blazer from Salvation Army exposed the rot at the heart of a billion-dollar company, my billion-dollar company. The meeting invitation appeared in my inbox at 5:15 p.m. Urgent, professional standards review. Conference room tomorrow 9 a.m., no details, but I didn't need them. The whispers had been growing louder all week, ever since the announcement that our CEO was retiring and the board would be selecting his replacement from within. That night, I stood in my walk-in closet, a closet that could have held a small car, but instead contained 7 thrift store outfits, all carefully maintained but deliberately modest. Hidden behind a false panel were my other clothes, designer pieces worth more than most people's cars, gifts from fashion houses hoping to dress the mysterious majority shareholder of Prometheus Tech. They'd been hanging there, untouched, for 3 years. I selected tomorrow's outfit with care. A brown polyester suit from the 1980s that I'd bought for $15, comfortable flats with visible wear on the soles, and a cotton blouse with a small, barely noticeable stain on the collar that I'd never bothered to remove. Perfect. The next morning, conference room A was packed. Patricia sat at the head of the table, flanked by 2 other HR representatives. Across from them, like a jury of my peers, sat the 15 complainants. Bradley Mitchell, our supposed star sales director. Jennifer Cross, the CFO's assistant who spent more on her nails than I spent on my entire wardrobe. Marcus Stone, who'd been passed over for my position and never forgiven me, and 12 others, all wearing their ambition and entitlement like designer armor. Isabella, Patricia began, her voice carefully neutral. We've received multiple complaints about your professional presentation. In a company that values excellence and image. 15 complaints, Jennifer interrupted, her fresh manicure tapping against her iPad, all documented with photos. She turned the screen toward me, showing pictures taken secretly over the past months. Me in my thrift store blazers, my comfortable flats, my simple cotton blouses. They'd been cataloging my appearance like evidence in a criminal trial. Your appearance reflects on all of us, Bradley added, his Tom Ford suit immaculate as always. Clients notice. The board notices. When you show up to meetings looking like... He gestured vaguely at my outfit. It undermines our credibility. Our top competitors dress for success. Marcus chimed in. Meanwhile, our senior analyst looks like she raided a discount bin from 1987. A few people laughed. Patricia didn't. The employee handbook clearly states that professional appearance is mandatory. Jennifer continued, reading from her screen. Employees should present themselves in a manner that reflects positively on Prometheus Tech Corp's reputation and values. And what are those values? I asked quietly, speaking for the first time. Excellence, innovation, success, Bradley rattled off, none of which are communicated by. He waved at my brown suit again. Whatever this is supposed to be. Patricia shifted uncomfortably. Isabella, while your work has been adequate, we need to consider the full package when it comes to senior positions. The CEO role especially requires someone who embodies our corporate image. Someone who looks the part, Jennifer added with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. We've actually taken the liberty of creating a presentation about appropriate professional dress, if you'd like some guidance. That won't be necessary, I said, pulling out my phone. Patricia, before we continue, could you please check file 001 in the confidential shareholder records? The one marked with the highest security clearance. Patricia frowned. I don't see what that has to do with. Please, it's relevant. She pulled out her laptop, typing in multiple passwords to access the most restricted files. The room grew quiet except for the click of her keyboard. Then she stopped. The color drained from her face so quickly I thought she might faint. This can't be right," she whispered. "What?" Bradley demanded. "What does a shareholder file have to do with her terrible fashion sense?" Patricia turned her laptop screen toward the room, her hands shaking. Isabella Torres owns 67% of Prometheus Tech Corp. The silence that followed was absolute. Jennifer's iPad slipped from her fingers, clattering on the conference table. Marcus's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Bradley stood up so fast his chair rolled backward into the wall. "That's impossible," he stammered. "The majority shareholder is some reclusive investor named Git Holdings." "Isabella Torres Holdings," I corrected, standing slowly. "Established 7 years ago when I used my inheritance from my grandmother, a woman who cleaned houses for 50 years, to buy into a struggling tech startup that showed promise. That startup became Prometheus Tech." "But you're just an analyst." Jennifer's voice cracked. "You take the bus to work. You bring lunch in Tupperware. You shop at thrift stores." "All true," I agreed. "I take the bus because I believe in reducing my carbon footprint. I bring lunch because I enjoy cooking. And I shop at thrift stores because I believe in sustainability and because." I smoothed down my brown polyester blazer. I wanted to know who at this company values work over wardrobe, substance over style. Patricia was scrolling through the file, her expression growing more horrified. You've been the majority shareholder this entire time? For 3 years? 4, actually. I promoted myself from junior analyst to senior through proper channels, never using my ownership to influence it. Every promotion I've received has been based solely on merit. Can everyone in this room say the same?" I looked pointedly at Bradley, who'd gotten his position after his father made a sizable investment, and Jennifer, who'd been promoted after her very public affair with the previous CFO. "Why?" Marcus asked, bewildered. "Why hide it? Why dress like someone who can't afford designer clothes?" I finished. "Because I wanted to see the true character of the people I work with. And you've all shown me exactly who you are." I pulled out a folder from my bag, my $8 thrift store bag that Jennifer had photographed and mocked in the break room last week. "Bradley, you've been using the company credit card for personal expenses, $47,000 in the last 6 months. Jennifer, you've been selling insider information to our competitors. Marcus, you've been sabotaging projects to make your colleagues look bad. How do you? When you own 67% of a company, you have access to everything. Every email, every transaction, every security footage of you all gathering in the break room to laugh at my clothes while I was saving this company from bankruptcy with my strategies." I turned to Patricia. I was going to wait until Monday to do this properly, but since we're all here discussing professional standards, I pulled out another document. "Effective immediately, Bradley Mitchell, Jennifer Cross, and Marcus Stone are terminated for cause. Security is already waiting outside to escort you out." "You can't do this," Bradley shouted. "The board. The board reports to me," I said simply. "I am the board, essentially. And the new CEO? That would also be me. The announcement will go out Monday." Jennifer was crying, her perfectly applied makeup running in streams. "This isn't fair. We didn't know." "Exactly," I interrupted. "You didn't know. You saw a woman in cheap clothes and assumed she was less than you. Worth less than you. You created a hostile work environment based on appearance, tried to destroy someone's career because they didn't meet your shallow standards. Security entered, 3 guards who'd always been kind to me, who'd never cared that I wore the same shoes every day. They looked almost pleased as they approached my tormentors." "Wait," Marcus pleaded. "Please, I have a family, a mortgage." "You should have thought of that before you submitted 7 of those 15 complaints," I replied. "Before you told the entire sales team that I probably couldn't afford to join the company Christmas party." As they were escorted out, Patricia remained frozen in her chair. "Miss Torres, I don't know what to say. I should have investigated better. I should have. You should have shut down workplace bullying the first time it was reported," I said. "Not waited until it reached 15 complaints to act. But you didn't want to rock the boat with Bradley and his connections, did you?" She nodded miserably. "You have 2 choices, Patricia. Resign quietly with a standard severance package, or stay and help me rebuild this company's culture from the ground up, starting with a new employee handbook that judges performance, not appearance. Stay, she said immediately. Please, let me help fix this. I studied her for a moment, then nodded. Send a company-wide email. Monday, 9 a.m., all hands meeting. The new CEO wants to discuss the future of Prometheus Tech. That weekend, my phone exploded with messages. The news had leaked. It always does, and suddenly everyone wanted to be my friend. Bradley sent 17 apology texts. Jennifer tried to connect on LinkedIn with a message about how she'd always admired my work ethic. Marcus left a voicemail sobbing about second chances. I ignored them all, spending my Saturday at my favorite thrift store where Martha, the elderly volunteer who'd been saving special pieces for me for years, had set aside a perfect 1960s Chanel suit. Someone donated this yesterday, she said, eyes twinkling. Said she was upgrading her wardrobe now that she got some big promotion. Can you believe someone would give away real Chanel? I recognized the suit immediately. Jennifer had worn it to last year's company gala, bragging about its authenticity. I'll take it, I said, handing over $30. It's perfect for Monday. Monday morning, I stood before the entire company wearing Jennifer's donated Chanel suit, though no one but Patricia knew its origin. The whispers started immediately about my clothes, my position, the firing of 3-star employees. Good morning, I began, my voice carrying across the packed auditorium. I'm Isabella Torres, your new CEO and majority shareholder of Prometheus Tech. For the past 4 years, I've worked among you, not as your owner, but as your colleague. I've heard your honest opinions, witnessed your true characters, and learned exactly what kind of company we really are beneath the polished surface. I clicked to the first slide of my presentation, a photo of my grandmother, Maria Torres, in her cleaning uniform. This is my grandmother. She cleaned offices like this one for 50 years, saved every penny, and left me an inheritance that I used to buy this company. She taught me that true worth isn't in what you wear, but in how you work. That respect should be earned through actions, not demanded through designer labels. The room was silent. Effective immediately, Prometheus Tech is implementing new policies. Dress code is now simply clean and appropriate. Promotions will be based solely on documented performance metrics. Any complaint about a colleague's appearance that doesn't involve actual hygiene or safety issues will result in immediate disciplinary action for the complainant. I clicked to the next slide, the company's profits over my 4 years, showing the direct correlation between my strategies and our success. While you were judging my wardrobe, I was increasing our profits by 400%. While you were taking photos of my thrift store finds, I was securing contracts worth billions. While you were trying to get me fired for not looking the part, I was ensuring you all had jobs to come to. Someone started clapping, then another. Soon most of the auditorium was applauding, though I noticed the fashion-conscious clique in the corner remained silent, their faces pale. Going forward, I continued, Prometheus Tech will be a company that values innovation over image, results over reputation, and character over clothing. Anyone who can't adapt to that culture is welcome to seek employment elsewhere. After the meeting, a young intern approached me nervously. Ms. Torres? I just wanted to say, thank you. I've been eating 1 meal a day to afford clothes that would fit in here. Now maybe I can just focus on doing good work. That's when I knew I'd made the right choice. Not the hiding, not the deception, but the revelation. The great unmasking that showed everyone who they really were when they thought no one important was watching. Patricia found me in my new office, the CEO suite I'd never visited during my years of hiding. The board wants to know if you'll be changing your wardrobe now that you're public, she said carefully. I looked down at my thrift store Chanel, thought about the designer pieces hidden in my closet, then shook my head. Why would I? These clothes got me here. They showed me who to trust, who to promote, and who to fire. They're worth more than any designer label. Jennifer's suit looks good on you, Patricia said with a small smile. It does, doesn't it? Turns out it only cost me $30 to look like CEO material. Though I think I looked like CEO material at $15 too. The only people who couldn't see it were the ones blinded by their own bias. That night, I called my grandmother's sister, the only family I had left. Maija, she said when I told her everything. Your grandmother would be so proud. She always said the rich folks never saw her, just her uniform. Now you show men what happens when they don't see people. 6 months later, Prometheus Tech was featured on the cover of Fortune magazine. The headline read, "The $12 blazer that built a billion-dollar empire." The article detailed our transformation into one of the most progressive, profitable tech companies in the world. Bradley works at a startup now, in a minor role. His LinkedIn still lists Prometheus Tech prominently, though he lasted less than a year. Jennifer became a fashion blogger, though her credibility took a hit when the story of her donated channel suit went viral. Marcus? He sent me a thank you letter last month. Being fired forced him to confront his toxic behavior, get therapy, and ultimately become a better person. And me? I still shop at thrift stores. I still take the bus when I can. I still bring my lunch in Tupperware. The only difference is now everyone knows that the woman in the $15 blazer signs their paychecks. Last week, a new employee stopped me in the hallway. "Miss Torres, I just wanted you to know, your story inspired me to apply here. A company that values work over wardrobe is exactly where I want to be." She was wearing a thrift store suit. I recognized the label, Salvation Army on 5th Street, where Martha still saves the good pieces for people who appreciate them. "Welcome to Prometheus Tech," I said. "You're going to do great things here." And I meant it, because in a company where appearance doesn't determine your value, anything is possible. Even becoming a billionaire in a $12 blazer.
The cream-colored envelope felt heavy in my hands, like it contained more than just paper. The return address belonged to Valentin Rogers, our family lawyer, the man who had watched me grow up while drafting prenups for my perfect sisters and managing our family's pristine reputation. "My name is Vanessa, and I'm the daughter they tolerate." I didn't need to open the invitation to know what it was about. Grandpa Julius had passed away 3 weeks ago, and now it was time for the vultures to circle. The family remembrance weekend was just code for dividing his fortune. My phone buzzed. Madison, my cousin, had sent another screenshot from the sister group chat I wasn't included in. "Joanna, can't wait to see everyone this weekend, though maybe someone should remind Vanessa this isn't a casual brunch." Lindsay. LOL, did you see what she wore to the funeral? That vintage dress looked like it came from Goodwill. Mom. Girls, be nice. She's trying her best. I smiled, running my finger along the envelope's edge. They had no idea. The last time I saw Grandpa Julius, he was in his hospice bed, but his eyes still had that mischievous spark. "Come here, little rebel," he'd said, patting the space beside him. "They won't see it coming." I thought he was delirious from the medication. Now I wasn't so sure. My doorbell rang. A courier stood outside with another envelope, this one marked "to be opened after the reading" in Valentine's precise handwriting. "Sign here, please," the courier said, studying my face. Mr. Rogers was very specific about delivery timing. I signed, trying to keep my hand steady. "Did he say anything else?" "Just that you'd know when to open it." As I closed the door, my phone buzzed again. Madison was calling. "They're already here," she said without greeting. "Your mom's organizing a pre-reading champagne toast." Let me guess, I wasn't invited to that either. Joanna's showing off her new tennis bracelet. Says it's an early inheritance gift from your mom. I sat down at my kitchen counter, spreading both envelopes in front of me. What else? Lindsay's been practicing her grateful tears. Says she's going to film the reading for her Instagram stories. Madison paused. "Van, they've already divided everything up. They assume you'll get the minimum required by law to avoid contest." Perfect. I traced Grandpa's signature on the formal invitation. That's exactly what I want them to think. "What are you planning?" "Nothing they'll expect." I checked my watch. I should go. Need to pick out something appropriately disappointing to wear. "Vanessa." Madison's voice softened. "Remember that Christmas when Aunt Deborah announced your sister's engagements?" "You mean when Mom told everyone I was finding myself while Joanna and Lindsay showed off their rings?" "No, I mean when you left early and Grandpa Julius followed you out. What did he say?" I closed my eyes, remembering his warm hand on my shoulder in the cold parking lot. "He said sometimes the best revenge is letting people think they've won." "And?" "And that he was proud I never pretended to be someone I wasn't." Madison went quiet. "The reading's at 3 tomorrow. Don't be late." "Oh, I wouldn't miss this for anything." After hanging up, I stared at the sealed envelope from Valentin. The paper was thick, expensive, the kind my family used for wedding invitations and birth announcements. All those milestone moments I'd failed to provide. My phone lit up with a text from Mom. Please wear something appropriate tomorrow. The photographer will be there. Of course, there would be a photographer. Heaven forbid we divide an inheritance without proper documentation for the country club newsletter. I picked up the sealed envelope again, feeling its weight. Whatever Grandpa Julius had planned, he'd made sure I had front row seats to it. The man who taught me to play chess when my sisters were learning etiquette, who funded my art classes while they attended debutante balls, had left me one final move. Another text buzzed through, Lindsay this time, sent to me by accident instead of the sister chat. Can you believe she's actually coming? As if she deserves any of it after embarrassing us all these years. I smiled, thinking of the manila folder hidden in my desk drawer. 15 years of screenshots, recordings, and receipts, every loan they'd forgotten to repay, every backhanded comment at family gatherings, every time they'd used my failure to launch as dinner party entertainment. Oh, I'm coming, I whispered to my empty apartment. And I'm bringing receipts? I stood up and walked to my closet, pushing past the designer hand-me-downs they'd given me out of pity. In the back hung a black dress, simple, elegant, and completely my own. Tomorrow, I'd wear it to watch their perfectly curated world unravel. Grandpa Julius was right. They wouldn't see it coming. I arrived 15 minutes late to find champagne glasses already clinking in the mansion's marble foyer. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see Joanna holding court by the pool, her tennis bracelet catching the afternoon sun. Oh, you made it. Mom's voice carried that familiar note of disappointment. She air-kissed my cheek, careful not to smudge her lipstick. Everyone's already here. I noticed. I gestured to the champagne. Started without me? Well, we weren't sure you'd come. You know how you are with family obligations. Before I could respond, Lindsay's voice rang out. Look who finally showed up. She floated over in a designer dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. We were just talking about Grandpa's diamond collection. You remember the necklace he promised me? Which one? I asked innocently. The one you told him you loved or the one you actually pawned last year? Her smile flickered. I have no idea what you're talking about. Of course not. I reached for a champagne flute. Just like you had no idea about that loan I gave you for Randolph's gambling debt. Keep your voice down, she hissed, glancing around. This isn't the time or place. Is it ever? Madison appeared at my elbow, rescue written all over her face. Van, come see the new garden room. They've redecorated. She steered me away from Lindsay's darkening expression and through the French doors. The garden room was empty except for fresh flower arrangements and family photos where we all looked perfectly happy. You're supposed to be playing nice, Madison whispered, at least until the reading. Why? They're not? Because Joanna's already called the realtor about selling Grandpa's summer house. They think it's a done deal. I laughed. Of course they do. Just like they thought it was a done deal when they convinced Mom to use my college fund for Joanna's wedding. That was 10 years ago. And I'm still paying off student loans? I touched one of the photos. Christmas 2015, the year Mom told her friends I was taking a break from family gatherings when really they'd stopped inviting me. But who's counting? The sound of heels on marble announced Joanna's approach. She entered like she owned the place, which in her mind, she probably soon would. There you are! Her voice dripped honey-coated venom. We were just discussing the second home Rodney and I are finally paying off. Thank goodness for Grandpa's generosity. Fascinating, I said. Speaking of generosity, do you remember that time you needed $5,000 for your spa weekend that was actually a consultation with a divorce lawyer? The color drained from her face. I don't know what, or should we talk about the text messages you sent me last year? The ones about Rodney and his secretary? Madison's eyes widened. Joanna's perfectly manicured hand trembled around her champagne glass. You wouldn't dare, she whispered. Wouldn't I? I smiled. But you're right. This isn't the time or place. We should focus on celebrating Grandpa's memory. The lawyer's arrival saved Joanna from responding. Valentine Rogers stood in the doorway, his briefcase a harbinger of what was to come. If everyone could gather in the living room, he announced, we're ready to begin. As the family filtered in, I hung back, watching. Mom adjusted her pearls. Lindsay positioned herself for optimal Instagram lighting. Joanna whispered something to Rodney that made him frown. Madison touched my arm. Are you ready for this? I patted my purse where the manila envelope sat heavy with truth. I've been ready for 15 years. Vanessa. Mom's sharp voice cut through the room. We're waiting. I took my seat in the back corner, the same place I always sat at family gatherings, the black sheep's designated spot. Through the bay windows, I could see Grandpa's favorite oak tree, the one where he taught me to climb while my sisters practiced their posture inside. Before we begin, Valentine said, I should mention that Julius was very specific about how this reading should proceed. Yes, yes, Mom waved her hand. He always was particular about protocol. Let's get on with it. I caught Valentine's eye and nodded slightly. He'd been there through everything, the missed invitations, the forgotten birthday cards, the gradual erasure of the daughter who wouldn't conform. Very well. He opened his briefcase. Shall we begin? Lindsay already had her phone out, ready to capture the moment. Joanna sat straight-backed, expectant. Mom dabbed at dry eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. I reached into my purse and felt the edge of the manila envelope. Soon, they would understand what Grandpa meant when he said some fortunes aren't measured in money. The last will and testament of Julius Perry, Valentine began, his voice steady, to my family, whom I have watched perform their roles so diligently all these years. I settled back in my chair. The show was about to begin. Remember when Mom tried to buy you a husband? Madison whispered as Valentine shuffled his papers. I did remember. 5 years ago, Mom had summoned me to lunch at her country club. She'd worn her intervention pearls, the ones reserved for particularly disappointing family discussions. I've found someone suitable, she'd announced over her untouched salad. His family owns real estate downtown. He's willing to overlook your creative pursuits. You mean my career? Darling, designing websites is hardly a career. She'd slid a photo across the table. Thomas is willing to propose within 6 months. All you have to do is act the part. I'd pushed the photo back. And what's the price tag for this arrangement? Don't be crude. But she'd named a figure, enough to make me pause. Plus full access to the family trust, of course, like your sisters. Now, watching Mom adjust her intervention pearls as Valentine prepared to read the will, I remembered how close I'd come to saying yes, how tempting it had been to finally earn my place at their table. Earth to Vanessa. Joanna's voice cut through my memories. Valentine asked if you had any objections before we proceed. None whatsoever. I smiled. Please continue. Lindsay lowered her phone long enough to stage whisper to Joanna. At least she dressed appropriately for once, though God knows why she bothered. Girls, Mom warned, but her tone carried more amusement than reproach. Valentine cleared his throat. Before we continued, Julius left specific instructions about recording devices. Oh, it's just for my Instagram stories, Lindsay protested. My followers love family moments. I'm afraid I must insist. Valentine's tone left no room for argument. All phones must be turned off and placed on the table. Lindsay's perfectly plucked eyebrows drew together. But now! His voice carried an edge I'd never heard before. As phones clattered onto the mahogany table, I caught Madison's eye. She gave me the slightest nod, confirmation that she'd done what I'd asked. While we're waiting, Joanna turned to me. Have you heard about the renovations we're planning for the summer house? Rodney has the most wonderful ideas for the waterfront. Fascinating. I leaned forward. Almost as fascinating as those late-night calls you made to your tennis instructor last month. Rodney's head snapped up. Joanna's smile froze. I have no idea what you're talking about, she said carefully. No? Should we ask your phone records? Before she could respond, Mom cut in. Vanessa, dear, this isn't the time for your imagination. You're right. I sat back. Let's focus on the reading. Valentine had finished organizing his papers. The room fell silent except for the tick of Grandpa's old grandfather clock, the one he'd promised me years ago because I was the only one who knew how to wind it properly. Before I begin, Valentine said, Julius asked me to play a recording. Mom frowned. That wasn't mentioned in the preliminary discussions. Nevertheless, he pressed play on a small recorder. Grandpa's voice filled the room, still strong, despite being recorded in his final weeks. To my family, gathered here today, I've watched you all so carefully over the years, watched how you present yourselves to the world, watched what you do when you think no one's looking. Lindsay shifted uncomfortably. Joanna's hand found Rodney's, but he pulled away. I've seen the masks you wear, Grandpa continued, and I've seen who takes them off when it matters. Mom's intervention pearls clinked as she straightened. Valentine, is this really necessary? Julius insisted. He didn't stop the recording. To those who valued appearance over authenticity, who chose performance over truth, you've already received your inheritance in the life you chose to live. To the one who dared to be real in a family of facades. The recording clicked off. In the silence that followed, I could feel every eye in the room turn to me. Well, Mom laughed nervously. Julius always did have a flair for drama. Shall we proceed with the actual reading? Of course. Valentine opened the will. Though I should mention one more thing. Julius made some amendments in his final week. What amendments? Joanna demanded. All in good time. He adjusted his glasses. Now, regarding the distribution of assets, I touched the manila envelope in my purse one last time, feeling the weight of 15 years' worth of truth. Soon they would understand that some inheritances aren't listed in wills. Let them gloat, I whispered to Madison. That's the point. She squeezed my hand as Valentine began to read, his voice carrying the weight of justice delayed but not denied. In the corner, Grandpa's clock ticked steadily on, counting down the moments until my family's carefully constructed world would crumble. The time for masks was over. To my eldest daughter, Joanna, Valentine read, I leave the sum of $75,000. Joanna's triumphant smile lit up the room. She squeezed Rodney's hand, but his eyes remained fixed on his shoes. To my daughter, Lindsay, I also leave $75,000. Lindsay dabbed at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief, perfectly executing the grateful tears she'd practiced. Oh, Daddy would have wanted this, she whispered loudly enough for everyone to hear. Mom beamed at her two perfect daughters, then shot me a look that clearly said, this is why we follow the rules. And the remaining balance of the estate, Valentine continued, totaling $225,000. The room held its breath. Joanna's fingers tightened around her champagne glass. Lindsay stopped pretending to cry. Goes to my granddaughter, Vanessa. The crystal glass shattered in Joanna's hand, sending champagne across the Persian rug. That's impossible. Mom stood up, pearls clutched tight. There must be some mistake. No mistake, Valentine said calmly, producing another document, along with a personal message, to my dear Vanessa, who never needed to pretend, who gave loans she knew would never be repaid, who kept her integrity when it would have been easier to sell it. You are my true heir in every sense that matters. This is ridiculous, Lindsay's carefully crafted composure cracked. She doesn't even come to family functions. I wasn't invited to family functions, I corrected quietly. There's a difference. Valentine, Mom's voice shook. This cannot be legal. Julius was not in his right mind at the end. I have 3 separate psychiatric evaluations confirming his competency, Valentine replied, as well as video documentation of him making these changes. Video? Joanna's voice rose to a shriek. You recorded our father's final moments? He recorded them himself. Valentine produced a USB drive, along with quite a few interesting conversations he had with various family members about their financial arrangements. Rodney finally looked up. What kind of arrangements? The kind your wife didn't tell you about, I said softly, opening my purse. Would you like to see the receipts? Don't you dare, Joanna hissed. Or perhaps, I continued, pulling out my manila envelope, we should discuss the real reason Lindsay needed that emergency loan last year, the one that wasn't actually for her children's private school tuition? Lindsay went pale. You promised you'd never tell. No, you assumed I'd never tell. Just like you assumed I'd never amount to anything. Just like you assumed Grandpa didn't notice how you treated me. This is blackmail, Mom declared, standing up. Valentine, surely you can't allow this. Everything is in order, he replied, shuffling through more papers, though we haven't gotten to the most interesting part yet. There's more, Madison whispered. Julius left one final clause, Valentine confirmed, regarding the summer house. We've already made plans for that, Joanna snapped. The realtor's coming next week. I'm afraid those plans will have to be canceled. Valentine adjusted his glasses. The property has been placed in a trust, under Vanessa's sole control. The silence that followed was deafening. Even the grandfather clock seemed to hold its breath. No. Mom's voice was barely a whisper. No, no, no. That house has been in our family for generations. And now it will serve a new purpose, I said, standing up, one that actually helps people instead of just hosting charity galas for show. Lindsay lunged for her phone, probably to call her lawyer husband, but Valentine raised his hand. Before anyone makes any calls, you should know that Julius documented everything, every loan, every secret, every manipulation. He left quite a paper trail. You knew, Joanna accused, turning to me. You knew all along. I knew what Grandpa knew, that you'd all been performing your whole lives. That's why he left me this. I patted the manila envelope. Insurance, he called it, against exactly this reaction. What's in there? Rodney demanded. Truth, I replied simply. 15 years of it. Would you like to see? The room erupted into chaos. Joanna lunged for the envelope. Lindsay burst into real tears this time. Mom sank back into her chair, intervention pearls clinking softly against each other. This isn't over, she warned. You're right, I agreed, standing up. It's just beginning. I nodded to Valentine, who began distributing copies of the official documents. As my family scrambled to read the fine print, looking for any loophole they could exploit, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the window. For the first time in that house, I was smiling. Behind me, the grandfather clock chimed 3 times, marking the hour when everything changed. Grandpa always said timing was everything. He was right about that, too. Let's start with Christmas 2018, I said, pulling out the first stack of papers from my manila envelope. When Joanna borrowed $40,000 because Rodney's business investment went south. That was a private matter, Joanna snapped, but Rodney's head jerked up. What business investment? I slid the bank statements across the table. The one she told you was a spa retreat with her friends. Funny how that weekend coincided with a certain casino opening in Atlantic City. Rodney snatched the papers, his face darkening as he read. You said that money came from your trust fund. Rodney, darling, I can explain. Save it. He stood up, straightening his tie. Like you explained the tennis instructor? The room went deadly quiet. Lindsay stopped crying long enough to grab her phone, probably hoping to capture the drama, but Madison smoothly intercepted it. Moving on, I continued, pulling out more papers. Lindsay, remember when you needed help with those medical bills last spring? She froze. Don't. Except they weren't medical bills, were they? The receipts show payments to a private investigator, the same one who followed Randolph to his meetings with his secretary. That's enough! Mom slammed her hand on the table. I won't sit here and listen to these lies. Lies? I pressed play on my phone. Her own voice filled the room. Of course we don't invite Vanessa to the important events. She'd only embarrass us like she did at the country club gala. Some people just aren't meant for proper society. The color drained from her face. Where did you get that? The same place I got everything else. By paying attention, by keeping records, by being the daughter you thought was too scattered to notice anything. I distributed personalized packets to each family member, years of screenshots, voice messages, bank statements, every slight and secret carefully documented. Here's your loan history, Joanna, complete with the emails where you promised to repay me next month for 5 years straight. And Lindsay, this is the text thread where you told your friends I wasn't invited to your children's birthdays because I was unstable, right after asking me to help pay for the party. Madison watched from the corner, her expression a mixture of horror and admiration. You kept everything. Everything. I turned to Mom, including the conversation you had with the country club board about why I shouldn't be allowed membership. Something about maintaining standards? Mom's hands trembled as she flipped through her packet. This will destroy us. No, I corrected. This will expose you. There's a difference. Rodney stood abruptly, car keys jingling in his hand. I need some air. Rodney, wait, Joanna called after him. But the front door slammed in response. Lindsay was frantically texting, probably warning Randolph about his exposed indiscretions. You had no right, she whispered. Actually, I had every right. Just like I had the right to be treated like family instead of an inconvenience, like I had the right to be invited to Christmas dinner instead of being told the date was changed. That was one time, Mom protested weakly. 3 times, I corrected. I have the screenshots of Madison telling me the real dates. Madison stepped forward. I knew something was coming, but this is nuclear. Oh, it gets better. I pulled out my phone. Remember how Valentine mentioned Grandpa's videos? He sent copies to every family friend you've ever used my failures as dinner party entertainment. You didn't, Joanna gasped. Check your social circle's inboxes. I'm sure they're interesting reading right now. Mom's phone started buzzing, probably country club friends demanding explanations. She silenced it with shaking hands. What do you want? She asked quietly. Money? Position on the charity board? I want you to feel what I felt. Every time you excluded me, every time you used me, every time you treated me like a family secret instead of a daughter. I stood up, smoothing my black dress. I want you to understand that karma isn't instant, but it is inevitable. Lindsay's phone chimed. Her face crumpled as she read the message. Randolph's not coming home tonight. The truth hurts, doesn't it? I gathered my things. Almost as much as being told you're not good enough for 15 years. You'll regret this, Joanna threatened, but her voice quivered. No more than I regret every loan I gave you, every secret I kept, every time I tried to buy my way into this family's good graces. I paused at the door. But don't worry, I'm sure you can explain it all away at the next country club gala. You're good at pretending, remember? As I turned to leave, Valentin cleared his throat. There's one more thing, a final clause from Julius. More? Mom's voice cracked. Haven't you done enough? Oh, no, I smiled. Grandpa was very thorough. This is just the beginning. The grandfather clock chimed again, marking another hour in the longest afternoon of their lives. For the first time, I wasn't counting the minutes until I could escape. I was counting the seconds until they understood exactly what they'd lost. You're destroying this family, Joanna screamed, mascara running down her cheeks. Is that what you wanted? No, I replied calmly. I'm exposing the truth. You destroyed the family years ago with every lie, every manipulation, every time you chose appearance over authenticity. Mom's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. She finally answered it on speaker, probably hoping to maintain some control over the situation. Bad move. Deborah? A shrill voice filled the room. Is it true what they're saying about Lindsay's husband and his secretary and Joanna's gambling? It's all over the club group chat. Mom ended the call, her hands shaking. Fix this, she demanded. Tell them it was all a mistake. Like you told everyone I was finding myself in Europe when really you'd cut me off for refusing that arranged marriage. Lindsay's phone chimed again. She went even paler, if that was possible. Randolph's secretary just went public on Facebook. She's telling everything. Amazing how truth spreads, I mused, when people finally stop pretending. Madison stepped forward. I have something to add. She pulled out her own phone. Remember last Thanksgiving when you all said Vanessa was too busy to attend? I recorded that conversation too. You? Lindsay gasped. But you're one of us. No. Madison shook her head. I was just better at playing along. Until now. The front door opened and closed. Rodney walked back in, his face set in stone. I just got off the phone with my bank. Joanna, care to explain these transfers? Darling, please. $300,000 to an offshore account. He threw the statements on the table. Were you planning to leave before or after you cleaned out our savings? Joanna crumpled into her chair. I can explain. Save it for the divorce attorney. Mom tried one last time to regain control. Everyone, please, we can fix this. We're family. Family? I laughed. Was it family when you told the hospital not to call me when Grandpa was first admitted? When you kept me from saying goodbye until he specifically demanded to see me? I was protecting you. You were protecting your image. I pulled out one final envelope. Just like you protected your image when you forged my signature on those trust documents 10 years ago. The room went silent. Even Lindsay stopped texting. What documents? Madison asked quietly. The ones that transferred my portion of the family trust to my sisters, the ones that Mom signed my name to because she knew I'd never agree. I handed the papers to Valentine. Grandpa found them last year. That's when he started changing his will. That's not true, Mom whispered, but her face gave her away. The forensic handwriting analysis says otherwise. Valentine held up the documents. Julius had these authenticated before he died. That's fraud, Madison gasped. That's actually criminal. Yes, I agreed. It is. Mom sank into her chair, intervention pearls clicking against each other like tiny handcuffs. You wouldn't press charges. We're family. Family doesn't steal from family, I countered, Family doesn't exclude family. Family doesn't spend 15 years pretending one daughter doesn't exist because she won't play pretend. Lindsay's phone buzzed again. The country club board is calling an emergency meeting, something about reviewing our membership status. Your carefully curated world is crumbling, I observed. How does it feel to be on the outside looking in? Please, Mom's voice cracked. Don't destroy everything we've built. You mean everything you've pretended to be? The perfect family? The social status? The respectability? I shook my head. That was always an illusion. I'm just turning on the lights. Madison moved to stand beside me. I quit, by the way, she told Lindsay. Find another event coordinator for your fake charity galas. The grandfather clock struck again, each chime another nail in the coffin of their social facade. Through the window, I could see cars pulling up, probably more country club members coming to demand explanations. What happens now? Joanna asked, her voice small. Now? I gathered my things. Now you get to experience what I've felt for 15 years. The whispers, the exclusion, the judgment. Only difference is, you earned it. We can make this right. Mom tried one last time. Whatever you want. Money, position, status. I want nothing from you, I replied, except the truth. And now everyone has it. Valentine cleared his throat again. There is still one final matter to discuss. About Julius's charitable trust. There's more? Lindsay's voice cracked. Oh, yes, I smiled. Grandpa saved the best for last. As if on cue, more cars pulled up outside. But these weren't country club members, they were reporters. Apparently, someone had tipped them off about a major story involving one of the city's most prominent families. Shall we continue? Valentine asked, pulling out another document. The look of horror on their faces was better than any inheritance could have been. The truth, as they were learning, was the most expensive thing they'd ever lost. And I was just getting started. The final clause, Valentin announced, establishes a charitable trust in Vanessa's name, with specific instructions to invest in causes the family has historically deemed beneath their station. Mom's face contorted. What causes? Arts education for underprivileged youth, mental health resources, domestic violence shelters. I smiled. You know, all those grant requests you rejected from your charity board because they weren't glamorous enough. But the summer house, Lindsay started, will be auctioned. I cut in. The proceeds will fund a women's shelter. Seems fitting, don't you think? All those garden parties pretending to support women's causes, and now it'll actually help someone. Joanna lunged forward. You can't. That house has hosted every important family event for 3 generations. Exactly. Like the engagement party where you announced your marriage to Rodney, right after Mom told me I wasn't invited because I wouldn't understand the significance of such occasions. Rodney, still standing by the door, laughed bitterly. Significance? Our whole marriage was a lie. Not everything was a lie, Joanna pleaded, just the parts that mattered. He turned to me. Do what you want with the house. At least someone will benefit from this family's legacy of deception. Through the windows, camera flashes started popping. The reporters were getting restless. We need to make a statement, Mom declared, reaching for her phone. I'll call our PR team. Already taken care of, I interrupted. Grandpa's letter to the press is being released as we speak, complete with documentation of every charitable donation you've blocked, every family you've blackballed from the country club, every time you use social status as a weapon. Madison checked her phone. It's trending on Twitter. Lindsay collapsed onto the sofa. My influencer contracts, my sponsorships. Will probably drop you faster than Randolph did, I finished. Truth isn't very marketable, is it? Valentin cleared his throat. There's more. Julius left video testimonials from several families, people whose lives were affected by your social machinations. You can't do this, Mom whispered. We'll be ruined. No, you'll be exposed. There's a difference. I walked to Grandpa's old desk, running my fingers along the worn wood. He taught me that, you know. In all those moments you thought I was wasting time with him, he was teaching me about real legacy. By destroying ours? By creating mine. I pulled out a folder. Meet the first recipients of the Julius Perry Foundation grants. Artists, activists, survivors, people who actually make a difference instead of just pretending to. Madison stepped forward. I'd like to help. With the foundation. Of course you would, Lindsay spat. Traitor? No, just tired. Tired of pretending, tired of watching you destroy anyone who didn't fit your perfect image. Madison's voice strengthened. I choose her side. The doorbell rang. Through the frosted glass, we could see the silhouettes of reporters. One last chance, I offered, facing my family. Tell the truth, all of it. Show some real remorse, and maybe we can salvage something authentic from this wreckage. Or what? Joanna challenged, but her voice trembled. Or I release the second set of documents. The ones about Dad's real reason for leaving. The truth Mom's been hiding for 20 years. Mom went absolutely still. You wouldn't. Try me. For a moment, no one moved. The grandfather clock ticked steadily, counting down the seconds until their perfect world completely unraveled. Finally, Mom stood up. Her intervention pearls caught the light one last time as she lifted her chin. What do you want us to say? The truth. For once in your lives, just tell the truth. I walked to Grandpa's grave later that evening after the press conference where my family finally admitted to years of social manipulation and financial fraud. The sunset painted the cemetery in shades of gold, his favorite time of day. You were right, I said to his headstone. They never saw it coming. I placed our old family photo on his grave, the one where I stood awkwardly at the edge, clearly not fitting in. Now I understood that not fitting in had been my greatest strength. My phone buzzed with a text from Madison. The foundation website just went live. Applications are pouring in. Another message followed. Also, the country club board just revoked their memberships. All of them. I smiled, remembering Grandpa's words from that last day in hospice. Sometimes the biggest impact comes from simply telling the truth. The truth had cost them everything: social status, marriages, reputations. But it had given me something priceless: freedom from their expectations, from their judgment, from their carefully constructed lies. As I turned to leave, my phone rang again. An unknown number. Is this Vanessa? A woman's voice asked. I'm from Simon and Schuster. We'd like to talk about your story. I looked back at Grandpa's grave one last time. The setting sun caught the edges of our family photo, highlighting the space where I had stood apart, the space that had ultimately given me the perspective to bring everything crashing down. Yes, I answered. I have quite a story to tell. The movers carried the last of Grandpa's antique furniture from the mansion while Mom watched from the doorway, her intervention pearls noticeably absent. You don't have to do this, she said quietly. We could still fix things. Some things aren't meant to be fixed. I signed the final removal form. Sometimes they're meant to be transformed. The grandfather clock would look perfect in the new women's shelter's entrance hall. A reminder that time moves forward no matter how desperately we try to preserve the past. My phone buzzed with another donation alert for the foundation. The auction of the summer house had sparked a wave of giving. Apparently, authenticity was more appealing than pretense. Miss, the mover called, where would you like the family portraits? Donate them to the Historical Society, I replied. They're good at preserving facades. Madison arrived as the moving truck pulled away. She looked different, relaxed, wearing sneakers instead of her usual heels. Lindsay's lifestyle blog just got canceled. Apparently, her followers prefer influencers who don't fake their entire lives. How tragic, I deadpanned. How's the foundation work going? We just approved funding for 3 new art therapy programs. She smiled. Real ones, not just photo ops. Mom stepped forward, her voice strained. You've made your point, Vanessa. You've won. What more do you want? Want? I don't want anything from you. That's what you never understood. I turned to face her fully. I just wanted you to see me. The real me, not the disappointment you invented. I see you now, she whispered. No, you see the consequences. There's a difference. My phone rang. Joanna's number. I answered on speaker. The divorce is final, she said without preamble. Rodney got everything. Are you happy now? Happiness wasn't the goal. Truth was. Truth? She laughed bitterly. Truth cost us everything. No, lies cost you everything. Truth just exposed the bill. I hung up as another car pulled into the driveway. Valentine stepped out, carrying a familiar-looking box. Found these in Julius's private safe, he said, opening it to reveal dozens of photographs. He kept everything you ever sent him: art projects, postcards, candid shots of you actually smiling. Mom peered at the photos. I've never seen these. Because they're real, I explained. Not posed, not perfect, just genuine moments. There's more, Valentine added. Julius left instructions about the Foundation's future. He wanted it to specifically help people who've been silenced, overlooked, or forced to pretend. Like me, Madison said softly. That's why I'm running the outreach program. Mom touched one of the photos, me at my first art show, paint on my clothes, beaming at the camera. You look happy here. I was, because Grandpa let me be myself. My phone buzzed again. A text from my publisher. Final draft approved, launch date set. Madison read over my shoulder and grinned. Should we tell them the title? They'll see it soon enough. Mom's face tightened. You're really publishing everything? Not everything, just enough truth to help other people break free from their own gilded cages. The last rays of sunlight filtered through the mansion's windows, illuminating empty spaces where pretense once lived. In the distance, a moving truck carried away the physical remnants of a lifestyle built on appearances. What happens now? Mom asked. Now? You learn to live without masks, or don't. That's not my problem anymore. I picked up my bag, the same one that had carried the manila envelope of truth that changed everything. Madison followed me to the door. Ready? She asked. Almost. I turned back one last time. Mom, that thing you always said about keeping receipts? She looked up sharply. Thanks for the lesson. Outside, the evening air felt clean, free from the weight of expectations and pretense. My phone lit up with another message, a photo from the women's shelter showing Grandpa's clock being installed in their entrance hall. Perfect timing, Madison commented. It always was. I posted one final update to my social media before turning off notifications. They spent their lives polishing masks. I spent mine keeping receipts. Guess which one lasted longer? The response was immediate. Hundreds of messages from people sharing their own stories of breaking free from family expectations, of choosing authenticity over appearance. You started something bigger than revenge, Madison observed. No, I corrected her. Grandpa did. He just needed someone brave enough to tell the truth. We drove away from the mansion, leaving behind empty rooms once filled with perfect lies. In my bag, the final draft of my book waited to share its title with the world. The Daughter They Didn't See Coming. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone's world. Sometimes it's about building a better one from the ruins of their lies. And sometimes, just sometimes, the black sheep turns out to be the only one who saw the flock for what it really was.
I came home to find my bedroom door wide open and a stranger's suitcase on my bed. My name is Sadie, and I've lived in this house for 25 years. Same room, same faded purple walls I painted when I was 16, same creaky floorboard by the window that I've stepped over 1,000 times. But today, everything I owned was crammed into cardboard boxes stacked against the far wall like some kind of garage sale reject pile. "Mom," I called out, my voice echoing through the hallway. "What's going on?" The sound of footsteps came from downstairs, followed by my mother's voice, bright and cheerful like she was hosting a dinner party. "Sadie, perfect timing. Come meet your cousin Marley." I dropped my work bag by the door and walked downstairs, each step feeling heavier than the last. In our living room sat a girl about my age with perfectly curled blonde hair and a designer purse that probably cost more than I made in a month. She looked up at me with this sweet, innocent smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Sadie," Mom beamed, wrapping her arm around the stranger's shoulders. "This is Marley, your cousin from your dad's side. She's going through a really tough time right now." Marley placed her hand on her stomach in this theatrical way. "I'm pregnant," she announced, her voice soft and vulnerable. "And the father, well, he's not in the picture anymore. I just need somewhere safe to stay until I figure things out." I stared at them both, waiting for the punchline. "Okay, but why is her stuff in my room?" Mum's smile faltered for just a second. "Well, honey, you're 25 now. Don't you think it's time to grow up? Maybe get your own place?" The words hit me like a slap. "Grow up? Mum, I've been paying half the mortgage for 2 years. I've been buying groceries, covering the electric bill when you were between jobs. That's different, Mum interrupted, her voice taking on that sharp edge I knew too well. That's family responsibility, but Marley needs stability right now. She's carrying a baby. Marley nodded, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. I'm so sorry, Sadie. I know this is awkward. If there was anywhere else I could go. There's the guest room, I said, my voice getting louder. There's the couch. There's literally anywhere else in this house. Mum crossed her arms. The guest room is full of storage, and she can't sleep on a couch in her condition. Your room has the best natural light, and it's closest to the bathroom. It just makes sense. I looked around the living room, at the furniture I'd helped pick out, at the walls I'd helped paint when Mum decided she needed a fresh start after her last breakup. At the coffee table, I'd assembled myself because she couldn't figure out the instructions. Where exactly am I supposed to sleep? I asked. Well, Mum said, glancing at Marley, I thought maybe you could stay with Angela for a while, or find a nice little apartment. You've been talking about wanting more independence. I had never once talked about wanting more independence. I'd talked about wanting to pursue interior design, about maybe taking some classes, about turning my little side projects into something real. But every time I brought it up, Mum would remind me that hobbies don't pay bills, and that she needed me here. Marley stood up slowly, one hand still on her stomach. I feel terrible about this. Maybe I should look for somewhere else. Absolutely not, Mum said firmly. You're family. Sadie understands. They both looked at me expectantly, waiting for me to smile and nod and play the part of the understanding cousin who puts everyone else's needs first, the same part I'd been playing my entire life. How long? I asked quietly. How long what? Mum replied. How long is she staying? Mum and Marley exchanged a look. Well, until the baby comes at least, maybe longer depending on her situation. I nodded slowly, feeling something cold and hard settle in my chest. I see. I knew you'd understand, Mum said, relief flooding her voice. You've always been so mature about these things. I walked back upstairs to my room, former room, and stared at the boxes. 25 years of my life packed away like I was already gone. My design sketches, my fabric samples, my vision boards for the business I'd been dreaming about building. All of it boxed up and pushed aside for someone I'd never met until today. That night, I sat at my desk and wrote a letter. When I finished, I placed it on my mother's nightstand while she slept. Then, I loaded my car with as many boxes as would fit and drove away just as the sun was coming up. In my rearview mirror, I watched the house get smaller and smaller until it disappeared completely. They'll see, I whispered to myself, tears streaming down my face. They'll all see. The micro loft I found was basically a glorified closet with a window. 47 square feet in a converted warehouse 2 towns over, sandwiched between a tattoo parlour and a laundromat that never seemed to close. The listing called it cosy and perfect for the minimalist lifestyle. What it really was, cheap enough that I could afford it without crawling back home. This is it? Angela asked, setting down the box she'd helped me carry upstairs. We'd reconnected through Facebook after I posted a vague status about new beginnings, and she'd shown up at my door with coffee and moving boxes without me even asking. It's temporary, I said, surveying the space. A Murphy bed took up one wall, a kitchenette barely big enough for a hot plate occupied another, and the bathroom was so small you had to step into the shower to close the door. Sadie, this place is smaller than my walk-in closet. Your walk-in closet doesn't come with independence. Angela sat on the edge of the bed, making the whole thing creak. Have you talked to your mum since you left? 17 missed calls and about 30 texts, asking when I'm coming home. I pulled out my phone and showed her the latest message. Marley is asking about you. She feels terrible. Can we please just talk? And nothing. I'm done being the family doormat. Angela picked up one of my design portfolios from a box. You know, I always wondered why you never did anything with these. They're incredible. Mum always said it wasn't practical, that I needed to focus on stable income. While you were paying her mortgage. While I was being responsible, I corrected, though the words tasted bitter. Angela flipped through pages of room designs, colour palettes, before and after sketches I'd done of friends' apartments. Sadie, these aren't just good, they're professional level. Why didn't you ever show me this stuff when we were kids? I remembered being 12, showing my mum a drawing I'd done of how we could rearrange the living room to make it feel bigger. She'd glanced at it for maybe 2 seconds before saying, "That's nice, honey, but we can't afford new furniture." When I explained that we wouldn't need new furniture, just move what we had, she'd patted my head and said, "Maybe when you're older, you'll understand how the real world works." "I tried," I said simply. Angela closed the portfolio and looked around the tiny space. "What if we documented this?" "Documented what?" "This transformation. You turning this shoebox into something amazing. People love that kind of content online." I laughed, but it came out hollow. "Who's going to care about some random girl fixing up a closet?" "You'd be surprised. There's this whole community of people doing room makeovers on Instagram. Some of them have millions of followers. I don't know anything about social media." "But I do." Angela's eyes lit up with the same enthusiasm she'd had in high school when she convinced me to run for student council. "I work in digital marketing now. I could help you set up accounts, figure out the posting strategy, hashtags, all that stuff." I looked around the depressing little space. The walls were this institutional beige colour that seemed to suck the life out of everything. The lighting was harsh and unflattering. The whole place felt like giving up. "I don't have money for renovations." "So we get creative. Thrift stores, DIY projects, paint from the discount bin. Document the whole process. Show people that you don't need a huge budget to make a space beautiful." I walked to the single window and looked out at the street below. A woman was loading laundry into her car, probably heading to the laundromat downstairs because her building didn't have machines. A guy in paint-splattered clothes was unlocking the tattoo parlour. Normal people living normal lives, making do with what they had. What would I even call it? The account? I don't know. Something catchy? Micro makeover? Small space? Big dreams? Angela joined me at the window. "We'll figure it out." My phone buzzed with another text from Mom. "Please come home. We can work this out." I turned the phone face down on the windowsill. "Okay," I said. "Let's do it." Angela grinned. "Really?" "Really, but I want to do this right. Professional level, like you said." "Deal. When do we start?" I looked around the space again, but this time I didn't see a depressing closet. I saw potential. Clean lines, smart storage solutions, a colour palette that would make the space feel twice as big. I saw the kind of transformation that would make people stop scrolling and pay attention. "Tomorrow," I said. "We start tomorrow." That night, I lay in the Murphy bed listening to the sounds of the city outside my window. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't thinking about my mother or Marley or the room that wasn't mine anymore. I was thinking about what came next. 3 weeks into documenting my micro-loft transformation, my Instagram had exactly 47 followers. Most of them were Angela's friends, and a few random interior design accounts that followed everyone back. "The algorithm takes time," Angela said, adjusting the ring light she'd bought for our photo shoots. "You just need that one post to break through." I was touching up the accent wall I'd painted in this deep forest green I'd mixed myself from discount paint samples. The whole project had cost me less than $200, but it looked like something from a magazine. "Maybe we should try TikTok," I suggested, stepping back to admire the wall. "Instagram first, build the foundation, then expand." Angela snapped a few photos. "These are gorgeous, by the way. The way the light hits that wall is perfect. My phone buzzed with a DM notification. I almost ignored it. Usually it was just spam or people trying to sell me followers, but something made me check. "Hi, I came across your micro-loft transformation and I'm absolutely blown away. I'm wondering if you'd be interested in a collaboration. I have a space that could use your magic." "Youssef." I showed Angela the message. "Who's Youssef?" She grabbed my phone and scrolled through his profile. Her eyes went wide. "Sadie, this is Youssef Hamilton, the singer. He has like 3 million followers." "Never heard of him." "He had that song about heartbreak that was everywhere last year. He's huge on social media." She kept scrolling. "Look at his house. It's gorgeous, but so sterile, like a hotel." The photos showed this massive modern house with floor-to-ceiling windows and expensive furniture that looked like no one had ever sat on it. Beautiful, but cold. He wants me to redesign his house. He wants to collaborate. That could mean anything from a single room to the whole place. Angela was practically vibrating with excitement. "Sadie, if he posts about your work to his followers..." I took the phone back and stared at the message. What if I mess it up? What if you don't? I typed back, "Hi Youssef, thank you for reaching out. I'd love to hear more about what you have in mind." His response came within minutes. "Would you be free for a call tomorrow? I've been living in this house for 2 years and it still doesn't feel like home. I think you might be able to fix that." The next day, I stood outside Youssef's house trying not to hyperventilate. The place was even more intimidating in person, all glass and steel and perfectly manicured landscaping that probably cost more than I'd made in my entire life. Youssef answered the door himself, which surprised me. He was shorter than I'd expected, with kind eyes and paint-stained fingers. "Sadie, I'm so glad you could come." He stepped aside to let me in. "I have to warn you, the inside is pretty depressing." He wasn't wrong. The living room was huge and filled with expensive furniture, but it felt like a showroom. No personal touches, no warmth, no sign that anyone actually lived there. "It's beautiful," I said diplomatically. "It's cold," he corrected. "My ex-girlfriend picked out everything before we broke up. I kept meaning to change it, but I don't know where to start." I walked around the space, taking photos and notes. "What do you actually like? What makes you feel comfortable?" "Honestly, your little apartment, it felt more like home in those photos than this place has ever felt to me." We spent 2 hours going through the house. He showed me his music room, which was the only space that felt personal. Guitars on stands, notebooks scattered on a desk, artwork from local artists covering the walls. "This is you," I said. "This energy, this creativity. We need to bring this feeling into the rest of the house. Can you do that?" I looked around the sterile living room again, but this time I saw possibilities. Warm textures, personal artwork, furniture arranged for conversation instead of display. "I can do that, but I have one condition." "Name it." "You let me document the whole process, before, during, and after, and when it's done, you share it with your followers." Youssef grinned. "Deal? When can you start?" "Tomorrow." 2 weeks later, Angela and I were putting the finishing touches on Youssef's living room when he walked in with his phone already recording. "Guys, I have to show you what Sadie did to my house," he said to his camera. "This woman is a magician." The transformation was dramatic. We'd kept the good bones of the room, but added warmth with textured throws, personal artwork, and furniture arranged to actually encourage conversation. The space felt lived in, but elevated. "The best part," Youssef continued, "is that she did this on a budget that normal people could actually afford. No $1,000 throw pillows, no designer furniture, just incredible vision." He posted the tour that evening. By morning, it had 2.3 million views. My phone started buzzing at 6 a.m. and didn't stop. Instagram notifications, DMs, comments, new followers. Angela called me screaming, "Sadie, you have 120,000 new followers. Your DMs are flooded with client requests." I sat in my tiny apartment, watching the numbers climb, and for the first time since I'd left home, I smiled without forcing it. My phone rang. Mum's contact photo filled the screen. I let it go to voicemail. The voicemail was 3 minutes of my mother sobbing. "Sadie, please, I know you're angry, but we need to talk. It's about Marley. She's gone, and she took money. The utilities got shut off yesterday, and there are papers from the bank. I don't know what to do. Please call me back." I played it twice, then deleted it. Angela looked up from her laptop where she was managing my overflowing inbox. "Your mum?" "Crisis at home. Apparently Marley disappeared." "Are you going to call her back?" I picked up another client inquiry from a woman in Seattle who wanted her entire condo redesigned. Nope, but curiosity got the better of me 3 days later. I drove past the house on my way to a consultation, telling myself I was just taking a different route. The lawn was brown and overgrown. Paint was peeling from the front porch railings. A bright yellow notice was taped to the front door. I parked across the street and called Raylin, Marley's older sister. We'd been friendly in high school before she moved to Portland. "Sadie, oh my God, I was wondering when someone would call you. What's going on with Marley?" "She's in the wind. Took off about 2 weeks ago with some guy she met online. Cleaned out your mum's checking account before she left." "How much?" $3,000. Plus she'd been using your mum's credit cards for shopping sprees. Your poor mum had no idea until the bills started coming." I watched a neighbour walk by the house, shaking their head at the dead lawn. "What about the pregnancy?" Raylin was quiet for a long moment. "Sadie, there was no pregnancy." "What do you mean?" "I mean Marley bought a fake belly online and some pregnancy tests from eBay that always show positive. She's been pulling this scam for months. She did it to her ex-boyfriend's family in Oregon, then some distant relatives in Nevada." The yellow notice fluttered in the breeze. "You're telling me she faked being pregnant to get my room? She faked being pregnant to get free housing, free food, and access to your mum's money. I tried to warn Helen, but Marley convinced her I was just jealous." I hung up and sat in my car, staring at the house where I'd grown up. The house I'd helped pay for. The house where my mother had chosen a stranger over her own daughter. My phone rang. Mum again. This time I answered. "Sadie, thank God I've been trying to reach you for days." "I've been busy, working. Honey, I need your help. Marley left and she took some money. The mortgage payment bounced and the electric company shut us off. I don't know what to do." "Where's Marley now?" "I don't know. She just disappeared one night. Left a note saying she was sorry, but she had to go. I think that boyfriend of hers was pressuring her." "What boyfriend?" "Some guy she met online. She said he was going to help her get back on her feet, but I think he was just using her." I almost laughed. "Mum, did you ever verify that Marley was actually pregnant?" "What kind of question is that? Of course she was pregnant. I saw the test myself." "Did you see a doctor's note? Ultrasound pictures? Anything official?" "She said she was waiting to find a good doctor. Why are you asking me this?" I started the car. "I have to go." "Wait, Sadie, please. I know you're upset about the room situation, but I need you right now. The bank sent foreclosure papers. I could lose the house." "The house you kicked me out of?" "I didn't kick you out. I just thought—" "You thought I'd always be there to clean up your messes. You thought I'd never leave because where else would I go, right?" "That's not—" "Sadie, please, I'm your mother." "You're right. You are my mother, which makes what you did even worse." I hung up and drove to my consultation. That evening, Angela found me on my fire escape, looking out at the city lights. "Rough day?" "Marley wasn't pregnant. The whole thing was a scam." Angela sat down next to me. Seriously? Fake belly, fake pregnancy tests, the whole 9 yards. She's apparently been doing this to different families for months. And your mum fell for it. My mum chose to fall for it. There's a difference. Angela was quiet for a moment. What are you going to do? I thought about the foreclosure notice, about my mother's panicked voicemails, about the room that had been mine for 25 years given away to a con artist. I'm going to let her figure it out herself. Really? Really? She wanted me to grow up and move out. Well, congratulations. I grew up. My phone buzzed with another text from Mom. The water got shut off today. Please come home. I deleted it without responding. You know what the funny thing is? I said to Angela. I'm not even angry anymore. I'm just done. That's probably scarier for her than anger would be. I looked back toward the direction of my childhood home, somewhere out there in the darkness. Good. I made Mum wait 5 days before I responded. When I finally did, it wasn't with a phone call or a tearful reunion. It was with an email sent from my new business account at exactly 9 a.m. on a Monday morning. Subject: Property Resolution Options. Helen, I understand you're facing financial difficulties with the family home. After reviewing the situation, I'm prepared to offer 2 solutions. Option 1, I purchase the property at current market value, $285,000, with a 30-day closing period. You receive enough to pay off the mortgage and have funds remaining for relocation. Option 2, you vacate the property within 14 days, allowing me to assume the mortgage payments I've been contributing to for the past 2 years. Please respond within 48 hours with your decision. Best regards, Sadie Ward, Interior Design Consultant. Angela read over my shoulder as I hit send. That's ice cold. That's business. My phone started ringing within 10 minutes. Sadie, what is this email? I don't understand. It's pretty straightforward, Mom. Pick an option. You can't be serious. You want to buy my house. It's not your house anymore. You're 3 months behind on payments. The bank owns it now. But I raised you in that house. It's our family home. The family home you gave away to a stranger. The family home you kicked me out of. I didn't kick you out. You packed my belongings in boxes and told me it was time to grow up. What would you call that? I could hear her crying on the other end. Sadie, please, can't we just talk about this like normal people? We are talking about it. I sent you a business proposal. Respond like a normal person would. I don't have $285,000. Then choose option 2. Where am I supposed to go? I don't know, Mom. Where did you expect me to go when you gave away my room? The line went quiet except for her sniffling. This isn't you, Sadie. You're not this cold. You're right. The old me would have dropped everything and rushed home to fix your problems. The old me would have taken out loans I couldn't afford to save a house that wasn't even mine, but the old me was an idiot. I hung up. Angela was staring at me. Remind me never to get on your bad side. She made her choice. Now she gets to live with it. 2 days later, Angela burst into my apartment with her laptop. You need to see this. She pulled up a local news website. The headline read, Young Designer's Family Drama Goes Viral After Anonymous Tip. What did you do? I may have reached out to a few journalists about your story. Anonymously, of course. Small town girl supports family for years, gets kicked out for pregnant cousin who turns out to be a scammer. It's perfect human interest. The article included quotes from neighbours about how they'd seen me mowing the lawn and bringing in groceries for years. Someone had even provided photos of the house's current deteriorated state versus how it looked when I lived there. Angela, this is brilliant. I know. Your Instagram gained another 50,000 followers since the story broke. Everyone's calling you the Phoenix designer because you rose from the ashes of family betrayal. My phone was buzzing non-stop. Interview requests, client inquiries, messages of support from strangers who'd been through similar family drama. The best part, Angela continued, is that 3 different people have come forward saying Marley tried to scam them too. She's basically internet famous now, but not in a good way. That afternoon, Mum called again. "Sadie, there are reporters calling me. Someone told them about Marley and the pregnancy, and people are saying terrible things about me online." "What kind of terrible things?" "That I'm a bad mother, that I chose a scammer over my own daughter. They're calling me selfish and manipulative." "Huh? That's all you have to say? Huh? What do you want me to say, Mum? That they're wrong?" "Yes, I want you to tell them they're wrong." "But they're not wrong." The silence stretched between us. "I never meant for any of this to happen," she whispered. "But it did happen, and now you get to deal with the consequences. Please, Sadie, I'm begging you, just come home and we can work this out." "I am home. This is my home now." "That tiny apartment, that's not a home." "It's more of a home than that house ever was. At least here, nobody can kick me out on a whim." "I made a mistake." "You made a choice. There's a difference." I was about to hang up when she said something that made me freeze. "Marley's back?" "What?" "She showed up this morning with some new boyfriend. Says she wants to make things right. She's asking about you." I looked at Angela, who was watching me with raised eyebrows. "Tell her I said hello," I said, and hung up. Angela grinned. "This is about to get interesting, isn't it?" I smiled back. "Oh, it's about to get very interesting." I showed up at the house on Saturday morning wearing a tailored blazer and carrying a leather portfolio. My hair was professionally styled, my makeup flawless. I looked like success, and I wanted them to know it. Mum answered the door, looking like she hadn't slept in weeks. Her eyes went wide when she saw me. "Sadie, you look different." "I look successful. Can I come in?" She stepped aside, and I walked into the living room where Marley sat on the couch next to a guy with neck tattoos and a backwards baseball cap. Marley's fake pregnancy belly was nowhere to be seen. "Sadie!" Marley jumped up with that same sweet smile. "I'm so glad you're here. I owe you such a huge apology." "Do you?" "Of course. I know taking your room was awkward, but I was in such a desperate place. The pregnancy hormones made me so emotional and—" "Cut the act, Marley. I know you were never pregnant." The smile faltered. "What are you talking about?" I pulled out my phone and showed her a screenshot of the news article. "Raylin told me everything. The fake belly, the rigged pregnancy tests, the whole scam you've been running on different families." Marley's boyfriend looked at her. "You said you lost the baby." "I did lose the baby," Marley said quickly. "It was early in the pregnancy, very traumatic." "Marley," I kept my voice calm and professional. "I have documentation of your online purchases, the fake pregnancy belly from Amazon, the positive pregnancy test from eBay, even the fake ultrasound photos you bought on Etsy." Mum sank into her chair. "What is she talking about?" I opened my portfolio and spread out printed screenshots across the coffee table. Purchase confirmations, shipping receipts, even reviews Marley had left for the fake pregnancy products. "Your cousin has been running a pregnancy scam for months. She finds vulnerable families, convinces them she's pregnant and in crisis, then moves in and steals whatever she can before disappearing." Marley's face went red. "That's not... You can't prove any of that." "Actually, I can. I hired a private investigator after Raylin told me the truth. Want to see the report?" The boyfriend stood up. "Marley, what the hell?" "Don't listen to her, Jake. She's just jealous because I got her room." "You got my room by lying to my mother about being pregnant. Then you stole $3,000 and disappeared in the middle of the night." Mum was staring at the documents spread across the table. "Marley, is this true?" "Helen, you know me. Would I really do something like that?" "Yes," I said simply. "You would. And you did. To my mother, to your ex-boyfriend's family in Oregon, to those relatives in Nevada. Should I keep going? Jake grabbed his jacket. I'm out. This is insane. Jake, wait! Marley followed him to the door. Let me explain. The front door slammed behind them. Through the window, I watched Jake peel out of the driveway while Marley stood on the porch yelling after him. Mum picked up one of the purchase receipts. A fake pregnancy belly, $49.99. Plus shipping. She really wasn't pregnant. No. Mum looked up at me with tears in her eyes. Sadie, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. You didn't want to have any idea. You wanted to believe her because it was easier than dealing with the truth. What truth? That you chose a stranger over your own daughter. That you threw away 25 years of me being there for you because someone showed up with a sob story. Marley came back inside, her face streaked with mascara. Sadie, please don't do this. I can pay your mum back. I just need some time. With what money? You're unemployed and your boyfriend just dumped you. I'll get a job. I'll make this right. I closed my portfolio and stood up. You're not making anything right. You're leaving. You can't kick me out. This isn't your house. I pulled out a folder of legal documents. Actually, it is now. I assumed the mortgage this morning. The bank was happy to work with someone who actually has income and credit. Mum's face went white. What? I told you I was buying the house. You didn't respond to my email, so I went with option 2. The bank transferred the mortgage to me in exchange for bringing the payments current. But where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore, Mom. You have 30 days to find somewhere else to live. Marley was frantically texting on her phone. This is illegal. You can't just steal someone's house. I'm not stealing anything. I'm reclaiming what I've been paying for. Check the bank records if you want. I've been making mortgage payments for 2 years. Helen, don't let her do this to us. Mum looked between us, then at the fake pregnancy documents still scattered on the table. Us. There is no us, Marley. You lied to me. You stole from me. You ruined everything. I was desperate. So was I, Mum said quietly. That's why I believed you. I headed for the door. Marley, you have 1 hour to get your things and leave. If you're still here after that, I'm calling the police. Sadie, wait. Mum followed me outside. Please, I know I messed up, but I'm still your mother. Can't we work something out? I turned back to look at her standing on the porch of the house that was now mine. You taught me something important, Mom. You taught me that blood doesn't make you family. Actions do. I love you. No, you don't. You love what I did for you. There's a difference. I got in my car and drove away, leaving her standing there just like she'd left me, standing in that hallway with my life packed in boxes. The difference was, this time, I wasn't crying. 2 weeks later, I was standing in my childhood bedroom with a sledgehammer, about to knock down the wall between it and the guest room, when someone knocked on the front door. Expecting anyone? Angela asked, pulling her safety goggles up. Nope. I opened the door to find a man in his 50s with greying hair and my exact same green eyes. He was holding a small wrapped box and looked like he'd been standing there working up courage for a while. Sadie? I knew who he was before he said another word. Dad? Hi, sweetheart. I know this is unexpected. That's one word for it. I didn't invite him in. What do you want, Earl? I heard about what happened with your mother and Marley. I wanted to make sure you were okay. I'm fine. Better than fine, actually. He glanced past me at the construction chaos inside. Looks like you're renovating. I'm turning it into a design studio and workshop space for young artists, kids who need somewhere to create without being told their dreams aren't practical. Earl smiled, and I hated how much it looked like my own smile. That sounds perfect for you. How would you know what's perfect for me? You left when I was 8. I know, and I owe you an explanation. You don't owe me anything. It's been 17 years. I figured out how to live without you. Can I come in, please, just for a few minutes? Against my better judgment, I stepped aside. Angela waved awkwardly and went back to measuring wall studs. Earl looked around the living room, taking in the paint samples and design sketches I had taped to every surface. Your mother always said you got your creativity from me. Mum said a lot of things that weren't true. She told you I left because I didn't want the responsibility of a family. Didn't you? Earl sat down heavily on the couch. I left because I was having panic attacks so severe I couldn't leave the bedroom for days at a time. I was seeing things that weren't there, hearing voices. Your mother said I was scaring you. I stopped pretending to organise my sketches. What? I was having a complete mental breakdown, and instead of helping me get treatment, Helen told me I needed to choose between getting help and being around you. She said she wouldn't let a crazy person raise her daughter. That's not. She never said anything about you being sick. Because she was ashamed. Mental illness wasn't something people talked about back then, especially not in small towns. Earl pulled out his phone and showed me a photo of a small apartment with paintings covering every wall. I've been in therapy for 15 years. I take medication. I paint now. It helps with the anxiety. I wanted to contact you so many times, but Helen made me promise to stay away until you were 18. By then, I figured you hated me. I did hate you. I don't blame you. I sat down across from him. Why are you here now? Because I've been following your story online, the articles, your Instagram, everything. I'm so proud of who you've become, and I'm so sorry about what Helen did to you. You've been following me online? For years. I knew about your design work before it went viral. I knew about every job you took to help pay Helen's bills. I knew she was taking advantage of you, and I should have said something. Why didn't you? Because I was a coward. I was afraid if I contacted you, Helen would tell you things about me that would make you hate me even more. Angela had stopped working and was clearly listening to every word. What kind of things? Earl was quiet for a long moment. That I tried to hurt myself, that she found me in the garage with a rope. That's when she gave me the ultimatum. Get help and stay away from you, or she'd make sure I never saw you again. The room went completely silent. She saved my life by forcing me to get treatment, but she also made me believe that loving you meant staying away from you. He handed me the wrapped box. This was your grandmother's, my mother's. Helen never told you about her because she died right after I left. She left this for you. Inside was a delicate silver bracelet with small charms, a paintbrush, a tiny house, a heart. She was an artist too, painted murals in the church and the library. Everyone said you reminded them of her, even as a little kid. I turned the bracelet over in my hands. Why are you telling me this now? Because you deserve to know the truth, and because I wanted you to know that someone in your family has always been proud of you, even from a distance. Angela cleared her throat. I'm going to grab lunch. You two, keep talking. After she left, Earl and I sat in silence for a while. I don't know how to process this, I said finally. You don't have to process anything right now. I just wanted you to know that you weren't abandoned because you weren't good enough. You were protected by someone who loved you enough to sacrifice everything. Even if that's true, it doesn't change what happened. No, it doesn't. But maybe it changes what happens next. I looked around the house that was finally, truly mine. What happens next is I build something better. Earl smiled. I'd like to see that if you'll let me. Maybe, I said. We'll see. It wasn't forgiveness, but it wasn't hatred either. It was something new. The grand opening of Phoenix Design Studio was everything I'd dreamed it would be. Local news crews filmed the ribbon cutting, my Instagram followers watched via live stream, and the house that had once felt like a prison was now filled with young artists showing off their work. "Sadie, Channel 7 wants an interview," Angela said, weaving through the crowd with her clipboard, "after I talked to the scholarship recipients." I found them in what used to be my childhood bedroom, now transformed into a bright workshop space. 5 teenagers from low-income families, each awarded a full year of free design mentorship and materials. "This is incredible," said Maya, a 17-year-old whose portfolio had blown me away. "I can't believe this is really happening." "Believe it," I said. "And remember, when people tell you art isn't practical, you show them this room." Youssef appeared beside me, phone in hand. "Mind if I get this on camera? My followers are obsessed with your story." "Only if you mention the scholarship program." "Already planning on it." As Youssef filmed, I noticed Earl standing quietly in the corner, taking pictures of the artwork on the walls. He'd been helping with construction for weeks, never asking for anything in return, just showing up with coffee and tools. "The paintings are beautiful," I told him. "They remind me of your grandmother's work. She would have loved this." A commotion near the front door caught my attention. Through the crowd, I saw a familiar figure pushing through the guests. Mom? She looked older, thinner, like the stress of the past months had aged her years. She was wearing a dress I recognized from my high school graduation, probably the nicest thing she owned now. "Sadie, can we talk?" The room seemed to quiet around us. Angela stepped closer, ready to intervene if needed. "We're in the middle of an event, Mom." "I know, I wanted to see what you'd done with the place." She looked around the transformed space with wide eyes. The walls I'd knocked down had opened everything up. Natural light flooded in through new windows. The kitchen had been converted into a supply station for art materials. "It's beautiful," she said quietly. "It's everything you always said it could be." "What do you want?" "I want to apologize, really apologize, not just say I'm sorry because I need something." "Okay, I was wrong about everything, about Marley, about your dreams, about treating you like you owed me your life because I raised you." A reporter with a camera was edging closer, clearly hoping to catch our conversation. "Not here," I said, leading Mom toward the back patio. Outside, away from the crowd, she broke down crying. "I lost the apartment. I've been staying with my sister in Phoenix. She makes me pay rent and do chores like I'm a teenager again." "I'm sorry to hear that." "Are you? Really?" I considered the question. "Yeah, actually, I am. I don't want you to be homeless or miserable. I just don't want to be responsible for fixing it." "I know. I understand that now." She wiped her eyes. "I saw the news coverage about the studio, about the scholarships. You're helping kids who remind you of yourself." "I'm helping kids whose families believe in them. There's a difference." Mum flinched but nodded. "I failed you. I know that now." "You didn't fail me, Mom. You just chose wrong over and over again." "Can I ask you something?" "What?" "If I had supported your dreams from the beginning, would things have been different?" I looked back through the windows at the bustling studio, at the teenagers excitedly planning their first projects, at Angela, coordinating interviews with reporters. Probably. But then I wouldn't have learned that I could do it without anyone's permission. "I'm proud of you." "I know you are, now." We stood in silence for a moment, watching Earl help one of the scholarship kids hang a painting. "Is that your father?" "Yeah." "He looks good." "He is good. He got the help he needed." Mum's face crumpled. I was so scared back then, of his illness, of what people would think, of not being able to handle everything alone. "So you made sure you'd have to handle everything alone?" "I made a lot of mistakes." "Yeah, you did." Angela appeared in the doorway. "Sadie, the mayor wants to present you with a key to the city." "I'll be right there." I turned back to Mum. "I have to go." "I know, this is your day." She started to leave, then turned back. "For what it's worth, I always knew you were special. I was just too scared to let you fly. I flew anyway. I can see that. I watched her walk away, and for the first time in months, I felt something other than anger toward her. Not forgiveness exactly, but understanding. Inside, the mayor was making a speech about young entrepreneurs and community investment. The cameras rolled as she handed me an oversized key. "Any words for our viewers?" the reporter asked. I looked around the room at everything I'd built from nothing, at the kids who would get chances I'd never had, at the friends who'd believed in me when my own family wouldn't. "They thought I ran away," I said into the camera. "I wasn't running. I was reclaiming everything they thought I didn't deserve." The crowd erupted in applause, and I smiled, knowing that somewhere out there, people who'd been dismissed and underestimated were watching and thinking maybe they could reclaim their dreams too. The revenge was complete, but it wasn't the kind that destroyed. It was the kind that built something beautiful from the ashes.
I should have known the moment Valerie stumbled out of that hospital room, gripping my arm like I was her personal crutch, that everything was about to change. But grief makes you stupid. Loyalty makes you blind. And I'd been both for 5 long years. "Gemma, dear, help me to the car," she slurred, the anesthesia from her minor gallbladder surgery still making her words thick and clumsy. "You're such a good girl. Caleb chose well. My name is Gemma, and I used to believe that taking care of family meant something, that sacrifice had value, that being the dutiful daughter-in-law would somehow honor my dead husband's memory. God, I was naive. I guided Valerie's frail 75-pound frame into the passenger seat of her pristine Mercedes, the one she never let me drive, even though I'd been her chauffeur for years. Her silver hair was perfectly styled despite the hospital stay, because heaven forbid Valerie Phillips look anything less than immaculate in public. "The house better be spotless when we get home," she muttered, fumbling with her seatbelt. I can't stand mess. I bit back the urge to remind her that the house was always spotless. I'd spent the last 5 years making sure of it, scrubbing floors, organizing her medications, managing her social calendar, cooking her meals exactly how she liked them, all while my own life withered away like a plant forgotten in a dark corner. "Of course it is," I said instead, starting the engine. The drive home was mostly quiet, Valerie dozing against the window. I found myself staring at the massive houses in her neighborhood. Our neighborhood, I guess, though it never felt like mine. Even after Caleb died, and I moved in to take care of his mother, I always felt like a guest who'd overstayed her welcome. Caleb. My chest still tightened when I thought his name. 5 years gone, and I still reached for him in bed sometimes, still saved funny stories to tell him before remembering he wasn't coming home. He'd loved me fiercely, defended me against his mother's subtle digs and passive-aggressive comments. Without him as a buffer, living with Valerie had become a masterclass in emotional warfare. "You know," Valerie said suddenly, her voice thick with medication and something else, "I never wanted children. Did you know that?" I glanced over at her. She was staring out the window, her reflection ghostly in the glass. Darius wanted a big family, 3, 4 kids, but after Caleb... She trailed off, shaking her head. Madison was a mistake Darius never knew about. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. Madison, Valerie's precious daughter, the golden child who could do no wrong, the one who lived across the country and called maybe twice a year, but somehow remained the favorite while I sacrificed everything. "What do you mean?" I asked carefully. But Valerie had drifted off again, her head lolling against the headrest. At home, I helped her upstairs to her bedroom, made sure she had water and her medications within reach. The house felt enormous and empty around us, all marble surfaces and expensive furniture that no one was allowed to actually use. I'd given up my cozy apartment for this mausoleum, and for what? So Valerie could have someone to boss around while she waited for her real daughter to visit. I was heading to the kitchen to start dinner when my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Mom, it's Madison. Flying in tomorrow morning. Don't pick me up. I'll take a cab. We need to talk." I stared at the message, ice forming in my stomach. Madison never visited. The last time I'd seen her was at Christmas 2 years ago, when she'd spent the entire week complaining about everything, from the thread count of the guest sheets to the temperature of the house. I climbed the stairs to check on Valerie, but she was sound asleep, snoring softly. In the dim light from the hallway, she looked fragile and old, almost innocent. The next morning, I was arranging fresh flowers in the foyer when I heard the taxi pull up. Through the window, I watched Madison emerge with 2 large suitcases and a determined expression that made my blood run cold. She didn't knock. She had a key. "Gemma!" she called out, her voice echoing through the house. "Where's Mom?" "Upstairs resting," I said, coming into the hallway. "She just had surgery yesterday." "Good. We need to talk first." Madison dropped her suitcases with a thud on the pristine marble floor. She looked older than her 33 years, stress lines around her eyes, and a hardness to her mouth that hadn't been there before. "I'm moving back home." Something cold slithered down my spine. "Moving back? Permanently?" She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Which means you need to find somewhere else to live. This house isn't big enough for both of us, and let's be honest, I'm family. You're not." The words hit me like a physical blow. 5 years of devotion, of putting my life on hold, of being the daughter Valerie actually had while Madison lived her life across the country. And now I was being dismissed like hired help. "Valerie needs care," I managed to say. "She can't live alone. She won't be alone. She'll have me." Madison's smile widened. Her real daughter. I found Valerie in the sunroom an hour later, sipping tea from her favorite china cup. She looked refreshed, alert, nothing like the drowsy woman I'd helped home yesterday. "Madison's here," I said, setting down the medication tray I'd prepared. "I know, dear. We've already talked." Valerie's voice was crisp, businesslike. No trace of the vulnerability from the car ride. "She's going through a difficult time. The divorce, losing the house in California. She needs her family." "What about me?" The words slipped out before I could stop them. Valerie set down her teacup with a delicate clink. "What about you? I've been here for 5 years, Valerie. I gave up my apartment, my job, my friends. I've taken care of you through every doctor's appointment, and I'm grateful." She waved her hand dismissively. "But Madison is my daughter. You're not blood, Gemma. You were Caleb's wife, not his sister." The casual cruelty of it took my breath away. 5 years reduced to a technicality. "Where am I supposed to go? I'm sure you'll figure something out. You're a capable woman." Valerie picked up her teacup again. "Madison needs the guest room for her things, and frankly, it's time you started your own life again. Caleb wouldn't want you playing nursemaid forever." "Don't bring Caleb into this," I wanted to scream. "You hated that he chose me. You made that clear from day one." Instead, I nodded. "How long do I have?" "A week should be sufficient. A week. To find a place, pack up 5 years of my life, and disappear like I'd never mattered at all." I was heading upstairs when I heard Madison's voice from the living room. "Mum, this furniture is so dated. We need to completely redo this space." "Whatever you think is best, darling." I paused at the top of the stairs. Through the banister, I could see Madison dragging the antique coffee table to a different spot, her face scrunched in concentration. "This whole house needs updating. It's like a museum in here." Madison flopped onto the sofa, the white silk sofa that I'd been forbidden to sit on for 5 years. "And we need to talk about getting you better help. Someone younger, more qualified." "Gemma has been adequate," Valerie said. "Adequate. 5 years of my life, and I was adequate. She's not a real caregiver, Mom. She's just some widow playing house. You need professional care. I gripped the banister so hard my knuckles went white. Playing house? I'd managed every aspect of Valerie's life, from her medications to her social calendar to her dietary restrictions. I'd held her hair back when she was sick, driven her to every appointment, listened to her complain about everyone and everything. Perhaps you're right, Valerie murmured. I couldn't listen anymore. I went to my room, the room that would soon be Madison's, and started pulling clothes from the closet. My hands were shaking. An hour later, Madison appeared in my doorway without knocking. I hope there are no hard feelings, she said, though her tone suggested she couldn't care less about my feelings. It's just business, you know? Family first. I folded a sweater with deliberate care. Of course. Good. I'm glad you understand. She leaned against the doorframe. I'm thinking of turning this into a home office. The light is perfect in here. She was already erasing me, planning my replacement before I'd even left. Madison, I said quietly, what happened in California? Really? Her face hardened. That's none of your business. I'm just trying to understand why you're suddenly so interested in being here. You haven't visited in 2 years. I don't owe you explanations. She straightened up. I'm going to help Mom redecorate the living room. Try to keep the noise down while you pack. After she left, I sat on the bed and stared at the half-empty closet. This room had been my sanctuary, the only space in the house that felt remotely mine. Now, Madison was planning to turn it into an office. I was reaching for another sweater when my fingers brushed against something tucked behind the hanging clothes. A small wooden box I'd forgotten about, pushed to the back of the shelf. Inside were Caleb's things, his watch, some old letters, a few photos. I'd hidden them here after Valerie made it clear she didn't want reminders of her dead son cluttering up the house. Underneath the photos was an envelope I didn't recognize. My name was written on it in Valerie's handwriting, but the paper was yellowed with age. I opened it carefully. Inside was a letter, but not to me. It was addressed to someone named Nathan, dated 34 years ago. The handwriting was definitely Valerie's, younger and more flowing. My dearest Nathan, I can't stop thinking about our afternoon together. Darius suspects nothing, thank God, but I'm terrified he'll find out. What we have is too precious to lose, but too dangerous to continue. I'm pregnant, and I don't know what to do. Please call me. Love forever. V. I read it 3 times before the implications sank in. 34 years ago. Madison was 33. My hands were trembling as I folded the letter back up. Valerie's drunken confession in the car suddenly made perfect sense. Madison was a mistake Darius never knew about, because Madison wasn't Darius's daughter at all. The studio apartment I found was a shoebox compared to Valerie's mansion, but it was mine. 48 hours after Madison's ultimatum, I was sitting on a borrowed air mattress, surrounded by cardboard boxes and eating takeout Chinese food with plastic utensils. My phone buzzed. Another text from Valerie. Gemma, Madison forgot to give me my evening medications. Can you come by? I deleted it without responding. The 3rd one today. You look like hell, Natalia said, setting down 2 cups of coffee on my makeshift table, a cardboard box covered with a towel. My old friend from before I'd disappeared into the Phillips family bubble had shown up with caffeine and moral support. Thanks. Really what I needed to hear right now. I'm serious. When's the last time you did something for yourself? And I don't mean organizing someone else's pill dispenser. I took a sip of coffee. It was terrible, but it was hot. I called that lawyer you recommended. Jasper something. Wallace. Good choice. He helped my sister with her divorce. What did you tell him? That I need to understand my legal rights. About the house. About Caleb's will. About everything. I pulled the letter from my purse. And I need help with this. Natalia read it twice, her eyebrows climbing higher with each word. Holy shit, Gemma. This is proof that Madison isn't who she thinks she is. You think Valerie had an affair? I know she did. The timeline matches perfectly. Madison was born 9 months after this letter was written. Natalia set the letter down carefully. What are you going to do with this? I don't know yet, but I'm tired of being the only honest person in that family. My phone rang. Jasper Wallace. Gemma? I've reviewed the documents you sent. We need to meet. Can you come to my office tomorrow? Is it bad news? It's complicated news, but there might be options you haven't considered. The next morning, I sat across from Jasper in his downtown office. He was younger than I'd expected, maybe 40, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. Let's start with the house, he said, spreading papers across his desk. Caleb's will is very specific. It grants you permanent residence privileges as long as you're providing care for his mother. But she kicked me out. She can't, not legally. The will supersedes her wishes. He leaned forward. The question is, do you want to fight for it? What would that involve? Filing a motion to enforce the will's terms. It would be public record. Messy. I thought about Madison redecorating my room, about Valerie's casual dismissal of 5 years of devotion. How messy? Family court messy. Lawyers, depositions, probably some media attention given the family's social standing. And this letter? Jasper examined it again. If authentic, it suggests Madison may not be entitled to inherit from Darius's estate. His trust specifically allocates funds to biological children only. How do we prove it's authentic? DNA testing. We'd need samples from Madison and something belonging to Darius. I remembered the lockbox in Valerie's bedroom, filled with Darius's personal effects. I might be able to get something. Gemma. Jasper's voice was gentle. Before we go down this road, you need to understand what you're starting. This won't just expose Madison. It'll destroy the entire family. They destroyed me first. He nodded slowly. Then let's talk strategy. That afternoon, I drove back to the house. Valerie's Mercedes was gone, probably at her weekly bridge game. Madison's rental car sat in the driveway. I used my key, hoping Madison was out. The house felt different already. Furniture moved, new throw pillows on the sofa, fresh flowers in arrangements I hadn't made. Gemma? Madison's voice came from upstairs. Is that you? Just getting some things I forgot, I called back. I climbed the stairs quietly. Madison was in the master bedroom, going through Valerie's jewelry box. Find anything interesting? I asked from the doorway. She jumped, dropping a pearl necklace. I was just organizing. Right. I walked past her to Valerie's dresser, where the lockbox sat on top. Valerie asked me to get something for her. Madison watched suspiciously as I opened the box with the combination I'd memorized years ago. Inside were Darius's cufflinks, his wedding ring, some old photos. I palmed one of the cufflinks. What did she want? Just some papers. I closed the box. How's the caregiving going? Madison's face flushed. Fine. Great. Mom's doing much better. Really? Because she's been texting me about missed medications. She's confused sometimes. The surgery, you know. Valerie's never confused about her medications. She's been taking the same pills for 3 years. Well, maybe you didn't explain the schedule clearly enough. I smiled. Maybe. My phone buzzed as I headed for the door. Valerie, texting again. Madison gave me the wrong pills this morning. I feel terrible. Please come back. I showed Madison the screen. Still think she's confused? Madison snatched the phone, reading the message. Her face went white. She's lying. She's trying to make me look bad. Why would she do that? Because she's manipulative. She's been guilt-tripping me since I got here, making me feel like I'm not good enough, like I don't belong here. Welcome to my world, I said quietly. Madison stared at me, something shifting in her expression. For a moment, she looked young and lost, then her phone rang. She glanced at the screen and her face hardened again. I have to take this, she answered with fake brightness. Hi, Mom. No, everything's fine here. Gemma just stopped by to get some things. I left her lying to Valerie and drove straight back to Jasper's office. I got it, I said, placing the cufflink on his desk. He looked at it, then at me. Are you sure about this? Send it for testing, along with whatever you can get from Madison. How do we get her DNA? I thought about the coffee cup Madison had left on Valerie's nightstand, the lipstick prints on the rim. Leave that to me. That night, I sat in my tiny apartment and drafted an email. The subject line read, "The truth about the Phillips family legacy." I attached the letter, the DNA test results I'd have soon, and a detailed timeline of Valerie's lies. The recipient list included every family member I could find email addresses for, plus a few key people in their social circle. My finger hovered over the send button. Jasper's words echoed in my head. This will destroy the entire family. Good, I thought, and hit send. I stared at the draft email for 3 days before Jasper called with the DNA results. Gemma, you need to sit down. I was already sitting, but I gripped my coffee cup tighter. Just tell me. Madison is not Darius's biological daughter. 0% match. The words hung in the air between us. I'd suspected it, hoped for it, but hearing it confirmed felt like a punch to the chest. Are you certain? I ran it twice. Different labs. Same result. Jasper's voice was gentle. There's more. I did some digging on Nathan Williamson, the man from the letter. He's been making regular payments to a trust fund in Madison's name for 33 years. How much? Enough to pay for her college, her wedding, probably her divorce lawyer too. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. I set down my coffee cup before I dropped it. He knows. He's known all along. The payments started the month Madison was born. What about Darius? Based on the trust documentation, he believed Madison was his daughter until the day he died. The inheritance she's claiming? It was meant for his biological children only. I pulled up the email I'd been staring at for days. I'm sending it. Gemma, wait. Once you do this... I know. I added the DNA results to the attachments. They threw me away like garbage, Jasper. Let them see what garbage can do. I hit send before I could change my mind. The first response came within an hour. Aurora, Valerie's gossipy niece, replied to the entire email chain. Is this real? OMG, Gemma. If this is true, then my phone started ringing. Unknown numbers, family members I barely knew, reporters somehow. I turned it off and waited. By evening, Natalia was at my door with wine and updates from social media. It's everywhere, she said, showing me her phone. Aurora forwarded your email to half the city. The Phillips family drama is trending on the local Facebook groups. Any word from Valerie or Madison? Radio silence. But look at this. She pulled up a news article. Madison was supposed to speak at some charity gala tonight. She didn't show. The next morning, my phone had 47 missed calls. I turned it back on long enough to see a text from Madison. You psychotic bitch, you've destroyed everything. Another from Valerie. We need to talk. This is all a misunderstanding. I deleted both and called Jasper. The trust fund is in chaos, he told me. Darius's estate lawyers are reviewing everything. If Madison isn't his biological daughter, she could lose millions. Good. There's something else. Nathan Williamson wants to meet with you. That surprised me. Why? He didn't say, but he's flying in from Seattle tomorrow. I met Nathan at a quiet restaurant downtown. He was older than I'd expected, maybe 60, with silver hair and tired eyes. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. "You've caused quite a stir," he said, sliding into the booth across from me. I told the truth. That's all. The truth. He laughed bitterly. "Do you know what the truth cost me? 33 years of paying for a mistake, watching my daughter from a distance, never being able to claim her. Your daughter who just tried to throw me out of my home. Madison doesn't know about me. Valerie made sure of that." He leaned forward. "She told Madison that Darius was her father, told me to stay away or she'd destroy my marriage. I've been paying blackmail for 3 decades. Then why are you here?" "Because Madison called me last night, screaming about DNA tests and family secrets. She figured it out." His voice cracked. 33 years, and she found out from a stranger's email. I felt a flicker of something. Guilt? Sympathy? I pushed it down. "That's not my fault. Isn't it?" Nathan's eyes were hard now. "You could have come to me first, given me a chance to tell her myself. Like you had 33 years to tell her yourself?" He flinched. Valerie says a lot of things, most of them lies." I stood up. "Your daughter destroyed my life because she thought she was entitled to everything. Now she knows she's not. Deal with it." I was halfway to the door when he called after me. "She's broke, you know. The divorce took everything. She was counting on Darius's inheritance." I turned back. Then maybe she should have been nicer to the woman taking care of her grandmother. That afternoon, Jasper called with more news. The estate lawyers filed an injunction. Madison's access to the trust fund is frozen pending investigation. What does that mean? It means she can't touch Darius's money until paternity is legally established. Could take months. And the house? That's where it gets interesting. I filed a motion to enforce Caleb's will. The judge granted a temporary restraining order. Valerie can't evict you. I sat down hard on my air mattress. I can go back? If you want to. The house is legally yours to occupy as long as you're providing care for Valerie. What if I don't want to provide care anymore? Then you forfeit the residents' rights. But Gemma, there's something else. Valerie's been hospitalized. My stomach dropped. What happened? Panic attack, apparently. Madison called 911 yesterday after your email went out. She's stable, but... He paused. She's asking for you. I closed my eyes. Even now, even after everything, part of me wanted to rush to that hospital. 5 years of conditioning don't disappear overnight. What did you tell them? That I'd pass along the message. The decision is yours. I stared at my phone, at the missed calls from Madison, from Aurora, from numbers I didn't recognize. The Phillips family was imploding, and I was the one holding the match. Jasper? Yeah? Set up a meeting with the estate lawyers. I want to discuss my options regarding the house. All of them. I thought about Valerie lying in that hospital bed, probably still convinced she could manipulate her way out of this mess. About Madison discovering her entire identity was built on lies. About Nathan, paying for 33 years of silence. All of them. The hospital smelled like disinfectant and broken dreams. I found Valerie in a private room, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. The machines beeping around her bed made her seem fragile, almost human. Gemma, her voice was hoarse. You came. Jasper said you were asking for me. Sit down, please. She gestured weakly to the chair beside her bed. We need to talk. I remained standing. About what? About how I'm not blood? About how I was just adequate? You don't understand. The stress of all this, the reporters calling, Madison screaming at me. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I had to tell her about Nathan. She won't speak to me now. Good. Valerie's eyes widened. How can you say that? She's my daughter. She's Nathan's daughter. You've been lying to her for 33 years. I was protecting her, protecting my marriage. You have no idea what it was like back then. I know what it's like to sacrifice everything for family and get thrown away when someone better comes along. A nurse poked her head in. Visiting hours end in 10 minutes. I turned to leave, but Valerie grabbed my wrist with surprising strength. Please, I'll make this right. Come back to the house. Madison can stay in the guest room. You can have your old room back. We'll work it out. I looked down at her hand on my arm, remembering all the times she'd dismissed me, belittled me, made me feel like an intruder in what should have been my home. No. Gemma, please. You made your choice, Valerie. Live with it. I left her crying in that hospital bed and felt nothing. The next morning, Aurora called me directly. Honey, you need to see the news. I turned on the local morning show to see Madison's face filling the screen. She was standing outside some fancy hotel, mascara streaked down her cheeks, facing a crowd of reporters. Complete lies fabricated by a bitter woman who couldn't accept that she wasn't really family, Madison was saying. Gemma manipulated my mother while she was vulnerable, probably forged those documents. The reporter cut her off. But what about the DNA evidence? Madison's composure cracked. That's private family business. My mother is in the hospital because of this harassment. Is it true you've lost access to your inheritance? No comment. Madison pushed through the crowd toward a waiting car. My phone rang. Jasper. Did you see it? I'm watching it now. She's making a mistake going public like this. Makes our case stronger. What case? Defamation. She just accused you of forgery on live television. On screen, the news switched to file footage of the Phillips family at some charity event. Valerie in an elegant gown, Madison smiling beside her, both of them the picture of high society respectability. The Phillips family has been prominent in local philanthropy for decades, the reporter was saying. This scandal has rocked their social circle and raised questions about the family's charitable foundation. I turned off the TV. My phone was buzzing with notifications, friend requests, interview requests, messages from strangers taking sides in a drama they didn't understand. That afternoon, I met with the estate lawyers in a conference room that cost more per hour than my rent. 3 men in expensive suits sat across from me, looking like they'd rather be anywhere else. Ms. Gemma, the lead lawyer began, we've reviewed your situation regarding the residence. Legally, you have the right to return to the house. What about Madison? She has no legal claim to the property. The house belongs to the trust, and the trust specifies that Mrs. Valerie has lifetime occupancy, with provisions for your residence as well. And if Valerie dies? The lawyers exchanged glances. The house would pass to Caleb's heirs. Since he had no children, it would likely be sold, and the proceeds distributed according to his will. Which means you'd receive a significant portion, possibly half. I sat back in my chair. Half of a multi-million-dollar house. More money than I'd ever dreamed of. There's another matter, the second lawyer said. The charitable foundation. Mrs. Valerie has been the chairwoman for 15 years, but given recent events, they want her to step down? The board is concerned about the negative publicity. They're looking for a replacement. What does that have to do with me? Your name has been suggested. You have a clean reputation. You understand the family's philanthropic interests. And frankly, the board thinks it would be good optics. Show that the foundation is moving past the scandal. I stared at them. You want me to take Valerie's position? The salary is substantial. The social connections alone would be valuable. And it would demonstrate that you're not the vindictive person Ms. Madison is portraying you as. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Nathan. Madison wants to meet with you. She has something to say. I showed the message to Jasper. He frowned. Could be a trap. She's desperate. Or she's finally ready to face reality. What do you want to do? I thought about Madison on TV that morning, calling me a liar, trying to paint herself as the victim. I thought about Valerie in that hospital bed, still trying to manipulate her way out of consequences. I thought about 5 years of being treated like hired help, while they lived off money that wasn't even theirs. Set up the meeting, but somewhere public. And the foundation position? I looked at the lawyers, these men who'd spent decades protecting the Phillips family's secrets and money. Now, they were offering me Valerie's crown. I'll consider it. That evening, I sat in my tiny apartment and Googled the Phillips Family Foundation. Photos of charity galas, ribbon cuttings, donation ceremonies. Valerie in every picture, smiling and gracious, the perfect philanthropist. In one photo from last year, I could see myself in the background, holding Valerie's purse while she posed with some politician. Invisible, forgotten, just part of the scenery. Not anymore. I picked up my phone and called the lead lawyer. I'll take the position, I said. When do I start? I met Madison at a coffee shop downtown, the kind of trendy place she would have sneered at before her world fell apart. She looked terrible, unwashed hair, no makeup, wearing a wrinkled sweater that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Thank you for coming, she said, not meeting my eyes. I sat across from her, keeping my purse in my lap. Nathan said you wanted to talk. I know what you think of me. Do you? She finally looked up. Her eyes were red-rimmed, exhausted. You think I'm a spoiled brat who got everything handed to her, aren't you? Yes. The admission seemed to surprise her as much as it surprised me. I was, but I didn't know about Nathan. I swear I didn't know. So, I've been living a lie my entire life. Everything I thought I knew about myself, about my family. She shook her head. Do you know what it's like to find out your whole identity is fake? Do you know what it's like to give up your whole identity for people who throw you away? Madison flinched. I'm sorry. About the house, about what I said. I was scared. Of what? Of being nobody. Her voice cracked. The divorce took everything. My house, my car, most of my friends. The only thing I had left was being a Phillips, being Daddy's little girl. And now you know Darius wasn't your father. Now I know I'm the daughter of some stranger who paid my mother to keep quiet. She wiped her nose with a paper napkin. Nathan wants to have dinner. Get to know me. Like we can just start over after 33 years. Maybe you can. How? How do I trust anything anyone says now? How do I know what's real? I studied her face, looking for signs of manipulation, of the entitled princess who'd kicked me out of my home. All I saw was a broken woman facing the collapse of everything she'd believed about herself. What do you want from me, Madison? I want you to drop the lawsuit. There it was. Why would I do that? Because you've already won. You destroyed us. Isn't that enough? I didn't destroy you. I exposed you. Same thing. She leaned forward. Please. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm asking anyway. Drop the lawsuit and I'll disappear. You can have the house, the foundation position, whatever you want. I already have those things. Then what do you want? Money? I don't have any, but Nathan might. I want you to stop lying. Madison blinked. What? On TV yesterday you called me a forger. You said I manipulated your mother. You painted yourself as the victim. I was upset. You were lying. Again. I pulled out my phone and showed her a video I'd saved. This is security footage from your mother's house, from the day you moved in. On the small screen, Madison was clearly visible in Valerie's bedroom, going through jewelry, pocketing a bracelet. You were stealing from her while I was packing my things. Madison's face went white. That's not... I was just what? Just taking what you thought you deserved? She gave me that bracelet years ago. No, she didn't. I was there when she got it. It was a gift from Darius for their anniversary. She never let anyone else touch it. Madison slumped in her chair. God, what is wrong with me? You tell me. I don't know. I've been taking things that weren't mine my whole life, haven't I? Money from Nathan, love from Darius, a house that belonged to you. She looked up at me. How do I fix this? You start by telling the truth. Publicly. What do you mean? Call a press conference. Admit you lied about me. Apologize for the things you said. They'll crucify me. They're already crucifying you. At least this way you'll deserve it. Madison was quiet for a long moment. And if I do this, you'll drop the lawsuit? I'll consider it. That's not a yes. It's all you're getting. She nodded slowly. Okay, I'll do it. When? Tomorrow. I'll call the reporters who've been hounding me. I stood to leave, then paused. Madison? Why did you really come back? Honestly, I thought Mom was dying. The surgery, her age. I thought if I came back and played the devoted daughter, I'd inherit everything. She laughed bitterly. Turns out I'm not even entitled to inherit anything. No, you're not. The next day, I watched from my apartment as Madison faced the cameras again. This time, she looked different. Smaller. More honest. I want to apologize, she began, her voice shaky. Yesterday, I made accusations against Gemma Phillips that were untrue. She didn't forge anything. She didn't manipulate anyone. She simply told the truth about my family, and I attacked her because I couldn't handle that truth. The reporters shouted questions, but Madison held up her hand. I've been living off money that wasn't mine, claiming an inheritance I wasn't entitled to, and treating people badly because I thought my name gave me the right to do whatever I wanted. I was wrong. My phone rang. Jasper. Are you watching this? Yeah. She's actually doing it. I didn't think she had it in her. On screen, Madison was still talking. Gemma gave 5 years of her life caring for my mother. She deserved better than what our family gave her. I'm sorry it took losing everything for me to see that. So, Jasper said, are you dropping the lawsuit? I watched Madison walk away from the cameras, shoulders hunched against the shouting reporters. She looked like a woman who'd finally run out of places to hide. Not yet, I said. But we're getting there. That afternoon, Aurora called with gossip. Honey, you need to know. Valerie's been discharged from the hospital, but she's not going home. Where is she going? Some fancy assisted living place. Apparently, she can't handle being alone in that big house anymore. I hung up and stared out my tiny apartment window. The Phillips mansion would be empty now. Just me, if I wanted it. All that space, all that luxury, all that history. The question was, did I want to go back to the scene of my imprisonment, even as its new owner? My phone buzzed with a text from the Foundation's board president. Can you start Monday? We have a gala to plan. I typed back, yes, I'll be there. But first, I had a house to reclaim. The assisted living facility was nicer than most hotels I'd stayed in. Marble floors, fresh flowers, staff in crisp uniforms who smiled like they meant it. I found Valerie in the sunroom, staring out at a perfectly manicured garden. I wasn't sure you'd come, she said without turning around. I wasn't sure I would either. She looked older than her 75 years, fragile in a way that had nothing to do with her recent hospital stay. Her hair was still perfectly styled, but her hands shook as she reached for her teacup. This place is costing me $8,000 a month, she said. Did you know that? No. I can't go back to the house. Too many reporters, too many memories, too quiet. She finally looked at me. Madison hasn't visited. Have you called her? What would I say? Sorry I lied about your entire existence? Sorry I let you believe a dead man was your father while your real father paid me to stay silent? That would be a start. Valerie laughed, but there was no humor in it. You always were direct. Caleb loved that about you. Don't. Don't what? Don't bring Caleb into this. You hated that he chose me. I hated that he chose anyone. Her voice was sharp now, more like the woman I remembered. He was my baby boy, my perfect son, and then you came along with your middle-class background and your practical shoes, and suddenly I wasn't enough for him anymore. So you punished me for 5 years. I gave you a home. You gave me a prison. I sat down across from her. Why did you really ask me to come here? Because I'm dying. The words hung between us. I waited for her to elaborate, but she just sipped her tea. The doctors say 6 months, maybe less. The stress, the scandal. My heart can't take it. I'm sorry. Are you? Really? Her eyes were sharp, calculating. Or are you just waiting for me to die so you can have the house? I already have the house, Valerie. The lawyers made that clear. Yes, they did. Clever girl, using Caleb's will against me. She set down her teacup with a clink. I underestimated you. You dismissed me. Same thing. She leaned forward. But I'm not dead yet. And there are things you don't know. Like what? Like the real reason I kept Nathan's secret all these years. I waited. It wasn't just about protecting my marriage. It was about protecting Madison from the truth about her father. What truth? Valerie's smile was cold. Nathan Williamson has 3 other children, all from affairs, all abandoned when their mothers became inconvenient. He's a serial cheater who collects bastard children like trophies. That doesn't excuse. Madison was lucky I kept her from him. At least she had Darius, who loved her like his own daughter. Nathan would have destroyed her. The way you destroyed me? I never destroyed you. I made you stronger. I stared at her. Even now, even facing death, she couldn't admit what she'd done. You threw me away like garbage. I gave Madison priority because she needed it more. You're strong, Gemma. You always were. Madison is weak, broken. She needed protecting. From what? The truth? From herself. Valerie's voice cracked. Do you think I don't know what she is? Selfish, entitled, manipulative? She learned it all from me. But she's still my daughter. No, she's not. She's Nathan's daughter. You just raised her. Valerie's face crumpled. For a moment, she looked like what she was. A dying old woman who'd spent decades building lies to protect herself from uncomfortable truths. I loved her, she whispered. Despite everything, I loved her. Love isn't supposed to hurt people. Isn't it? Look what you've done to this family in the name of justice. Was that love for Caleb, or just revenge? The question hit harder than I expected. Both. At least you're honest about it. We sat in silence for a moment. Outside, an elderly man was feeding ducks by a small pond. Normal people living normal lives, unburdened by decades of secrets and lies. What do you want from me, Valerie? I want you to forgive Madison. Why? Because she's going to need someone when I'm gone. Nathan doesn't want her. He made that clear. She has no real friends, no money, no family except... She looked at me hopefully. Except what? I'm not her family, remember? I'm not blood. You're the closest thing she has to a sister. I'm the woman she tried to make homeless. And you're the woman who destroyed her entire world in response. I'd say you're even. I stood up. I'm not responsible for Madison. No, but you're responsible for what happens next. You have the power now, the house, the foundation, the money. What are you going to do with it? Whatever I want, including destroying what's left of my daughter. I looked down at this woman who'd controlled my life for 5 years, who'd made me feel small and unwanted and disposable. She was asking me to show mercy to the person who'd kicked me out of my home. Madison made her choices. So did you. And now you have to live with the consequences. I walked toward the door, then stopped. Valerie? Yes? I'm not coming to your funeral. She nodded. I didn't expect you to. I was almost to the parking lot when I heard shouting from inside the building. Through the glass doors, I could see staff members running toward the sunroom. My phone rang as I reached my car. The facility's number. Ms. Gemma? This is Nancy from Sunset Manor. Mrs. Valerie has collapsed. We're calling an ambulance. I looked back at the building, at the flashing lights of the ambulance pulling into the circular drive. Is she conscious? She's asking for you. I got back in my car and drove away. 2 hours later, Jasper called. Valerie's in the hospital, massive heart attack. Madison's flying in from Seattle. How do you know? Nathan called me. Apparently he's Madison's emergency contact now. Is Valerie going to make it? They don't know. But Gemma, if she dies, everything changes. The house becomes yours outright. The foundation position is permanent. You'll be one of the wealthiest women in the city. I pulled into my apartment complex and sat in the car, engine running. And Madison gets nothing. Nothing. Nathan might help her, but legally she has no claim to any of it. Good. Is it? Really? I hung up and stared at my tiny apartment building. In a few hours, I might own a mansion. I might be rich beyond my wildest dreams. I might finally have everything the Phillips family had denied me. So why did I feel so empty? Valerie died 3 days later without regaining consciousness. I found out from the morning news, not from any family member. The reporter stood outside the hospital, talking about the end of an era and the Phillips family legacy. I was drinking coffee in my new office at the foundation when Madison walked in without knocking. She looked like she'd been crying for days. The funeral is tomorrow, she said. I know. Are you coming? No. Madison sat down across from my desk, uninvited. She asked for you at the end. The nurses said she kept saying your name. Too little, too late. I know you hate us. I know we deserve it. But she's still dead, and I'm still alone. I looked up from my computer. What do you want, Madison? I want to make a deal. You have nothing I want. I have information. She pulled a manila folder from her purse. About the foundation, about where the money really goes. I leaned back in my chair. I'm listening. Mom wasn't the saint everyone thinks she was. Half the donations went to fake charities, shell companies that funneled money back to her personal accounts. Prove it. Madison opened the folder and spread papers across my desk. Bank statements, forged receipts, correspondence with dummy corporations. She's been embezzling for years, millions of dollars. I studied the documents. The evidence was damning, detailed, undeniable. Why are you showing me this? Because when the board finds out, they'll shut down the foundation. All those legitimate charities that depend on this money? Gone. All those people you could actually help? Screwed. And I know how to fix it. I have Mom's personal accounts, her passwords, everything. We can transfer the stolen money back, make it look like donations, clean up the mess before anyone finds out. What's the catch? I want half. I laughed. Half of what? The stolen money? Half of everything. The house, the foundation, the inheritance. I'll help you cover up Mom's crimes, and we split what's left. Or I could just turn these documents over to the police and let you go to prison as an accessory. Madison's face went white. You wouldn't. Try me. She gathered up the papers quickly. Fine. I'll take them to the FBI myself. Tell them you knew about the embezzlement, that you're part of it. With what proof? I'll make something up. I'm good at lying, remember? I stood up and walked around the desk until I was standing over her. Madison, let me explain something to you. I have the best lawyers money can buy. I have a spotless reputation. I have the sympathy of this entire city. You have nothing but a history of lies and manipulation. Who do you think they'll believe? You can't just... I can do whatever I want. That's what power means. Madison slumped in her chair. Please, I'm begging you. I have nowhere to go. Nathan doesn't want me. I have no money, no friends, no family. You should have thought of that before you kicked me out of my home. I was scared. So was I. For 5 years, every day, wondering when Valerie would decide I wasn't useful anymore. Turns out I was right to be scared. Madison started crying again. What do you want me to do? How do I make this right? I sat back down and studied her. This broken woman who'd once seemed so powerful, so entitled. Now she was just another person who'd learned that actions have consequences. You want to make it right? Yes? Then disappear. Leave town. Change your name. Start over somewhere else and try to become a better person. With what money? I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a cashier's check I'd had prepared that morning. $50,000. Enough to start fresh somewhere else. Madison stared at the check. Why? Because Caleb would have wanted me to show mercy, and because I'm tired of carrying around all this anger. This doesn't make us even. No, it doesn't. But it makes me free. Madison took the check with shaking hands. What about the embezzlement? I'll handle it. The money will be returned, the foundation will be cleaned up, and the people who need help will get it. And if I ever come back? Don't. Madison nodded and stood up. At the door, she turned back. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. About everything. I know you are. That's why you're getting the money. After she left, I called Jasper. It's done. Madison's leaving town. And the documents? I'm keeping them. Evidence, in case she ever tries to come back. What about the embezzlement? We'll fix it quietly. Set up a payment plan to return the money over time. The foundation will survive. And you? Are you okay with all this? I looked out my office window at the city below. Somewhere out there, Madison was probably booking a flight to start over. Somewhere else, Valerie was being prepared for burial. And here I was, in charge of millions of dollars that could actually help people. I'm better than okay. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. That evening, I drove to the Phillips house, my house now. I walked through the empty rooms, remembering 5 years of feeling like an intruder. Now every room, every piece of furniture, every memory belonged to me. I found myself in Caleb's old study, looking at his photo on the desk. He was smiling, the way he always smiled at me, like I was the best thing that had ever happened to him. I kept my promise, I said to the photo. I took care of your mother until the end, but I also took care of myself. I hope that's okay. The house was quiet around me, but it didn't feel empty anymore. It felt like possibility. My phone buzzed with a text from Natalia. Saw the news about Valerie. You okay? I typed back, better than I've been in years. Want to come see my new house? OMG. Yes. Should I bring wine? Bring champagne. We're celebrating. I put down my phone and walked to the window. The garden was overgrown. Valerie's gardener had quit when the scandal broke. Tomorrow I'd hire someone new. Someone who could help me plant something beautiful in soil that had been poisoned for too long. The Phillips family was gone. Their secrets were buried with Valerie. Their lies had been exposed and their power broken. But I was still here, stronger than I'd ever been. Free in a way I'd never imagined possible. I'd sacrificed everything for the illusion of family loyalty, But in the end, I'd learned something more valuable than revenge. I'd learned the cost of silence, the price of acceptance, and the power of finally saying no. Never again would I sell myself for someone else's version of love. Never again would I be disposable. I was Gemma Phillips, and this was my house, my foundation, my life. And I was just getting started.
The day my grandmother died, I learned I wasn't really a West. I suppose I should have seen it coming from the way my mother's lips tightened whenever someone mentioned how much I looked like Grandma Francesca in her youth. But I didn't. I was too busy being the perfect granddaughter, the one who spent every weekend at the farmhouse during Francesca's final year, while the rest of the family was too occupied to visit. My name is Maeve, and until yesterday, I thought I knew exactly who I was. The funeral was exactly as Grandma would have wanted it. Elegant but understated, held in the sprawling garden of her beloved upstate farmhouse. White roses everywhere, classical quartet playing softly, the scent of fresh-cut grass mixing with late summer air. I stood near the back, watching my cousins Laurel and Lisa dab at their eyes with monogrammed handkerchiefs, while my mother Hallie worked the crowd like it was a charity gala. "Such a tragedy," Laurel kept saying, her voice carrying across the lawn, "but at least the estate will stay in the family." I ignored her, focusing instead on the memory of Grandma's hands in mine just weeks ago, her fingers trembling as she showed me old photo albums. "You're the only one who sees me," she'd whispered then, "the only one who comes just to come." After the service, I was gathering my things when my mother cornered me by the coat check. Her perfect makeup couldn't hide the cold calculation in her eyes. "We need to talk," she said, steering me into Grandma's empty study. The room still smelled like her signature lavender perfume. "There's something you should know before tomorrow's will reading." I remember thinking how odd it was that she seemed more animated now than during the actual funeral. "You won't be attending," she said flatly. "It's for family only." "What are you talking about? I'm family." "No, Maeve, you're not." She smoothed her black dress, avoiding my eyes. "You're adopted. We took you in when you were 6 months old. Francesca knew, of course, but we all agreed it was better not to tell you." The room tilted sideways. "You're lying. I have the papers at home if you'd like to see them." Her voice was clinical, detached. "We gave you everything, raised you as our own, but when it comes to inheritance, well, blood is blood." I stood there, frozen, as 28 years of memories rearranged themselves like a kaleidoscope. Every family resemblance comment, every time someone mentioned the West family genes. All lies. "Does this have something to do with the will?" I managed to ask. "The estate needs to stay with real family members," she replied. "I'm sure you understand." I didn't understand. Not then. But I nodded anyway, gathered what was left of my dignity, and walked out of that study. Past Laurel's smirking face, past Milena's pitying glance, past the photos of summer parties where I'd always felt so perfectly at home. That night, alone in my apartment, I pulled out the old lockbox I kept under my bed. My hands shook as I opened it, reaching past birth certificates I now knew were altered, past childhood photos that suddenly felt like props in an elaborate play, and there it was. The document Grandma had insisted on signing last year when her mind was still sharp enough to know exactly what she was doing. A deed, transferring ownership of the $4.2 million farmhouse and surrounding property to me. The sale price, $1. Attached was a note in her familiar, slightly shaky handwriting. "Because you are worth more than blood." I traced her signature with my finger, remembering how she gripped my hand after signing it. "When they show you who they are," she'd said, "you show them whose name is on the gate." I didn't understand then, but I do now. My phone buzzed with a text from Milena. "So sorry about everything. Laurel's already talking about redecorating the house. Wish things were different." I looked at the deed again, then at my reflection in the window. I saw what Grandma must have seen. Not a charity case, not an imposter, but someone worthy of legacy, someone who'd earned it not through blood, but through love. They thought they were writing me out of the family story. They didn't know Grandma had already written me into the deed. Tomorrow, they'll gather in that study, champagne ready, waiting to divide up what they think is theirs. They'll toast to keeping it in the family. But I have other plans, because blood isn't what makes a family. And Grandma made sure I had the paperwork to prove it. I wasn't planning to check social media the day after the will reading, but my phone wouldn't stop buzzing with notifications. There they were, Instagram stories flooding my feed. Laurel, champagne glass raised high in Grandma's kitchen. Lisa sprawled across the antique chaise lounge I used to read on during summer visits. Curtis, Laurel's husband, measuring the master bedroom walls for renovations. "To keeping the legacy alive," Laurel's caption read, followed by a string of heart emojis. The timestamp showed they'd barely waited an hour after the reading to start celebrating. My college friend Rachel called while I was still scrolling through the photos. "Have you seen what they're posting? It's disgusting." "I'm looking at it right now," I said, watching a new video pop up of Laurel and Lisa dancing in the garden. "How did you hear about the will?" "Milena told her cousin, who told me." Rachel paused. "Is it true they gave everything to Laurel?" "Almost everything." I kept my voice steady. "The money, the art collection, the vacation house in Vermont, and supposedly the farmhouse." Supposedly? I wasn't ready to share my secret yet. Never mind. Another notification popped up. A private message from Milena. I should have said something during the reading. When Laurel made that comment about real family only, I wanted to scream, "I'm so sorry, Maeve." I closed the message without responding. Milena's guilt wasn't my problem. My phone rang again. This time it was Terry, the family attorney. "Maeve, do you have a minute? If you're calling about the will—" No, he cut in quickly. I wanted to check on you. Things got ugly in there today." I remembered the stories Rachel had relayed. How my mother had stood up and announced to everyone present that I wasn't technically family. How Laurel had immediately started planning renovations, talking about erasing every trace of the old guard. "I heard," I said. "Sounds like quite a party." "Listen," Terry's voice dropped lower, "about the farmhouse." "I know exactly what's happening with the farmhouse," I interrupted, "but thank you for your concern." After hanging up, I watched one more video. My mother was raising a toast in Grandma's formal dining room. "To keeping it in the bloodline," she declared, while everyone cheered. That's when something in me shifted. The hurt crystallized into something harder, colder, more purposeful. I picked up my phone and called Omar, my friend who worked as a notary. "Remember that property deed we discussed last year? I need your help with some paperwork." "The farmhouse? What kind of paperwork?" "Eviction notices," I said. "How quickly can you draw them up?" "Give me an hour, but Maeve, are you sure about this?" I looked at another photo Laurel had just posted. Her kids running through Grandma's prized rose garden, trampling the bushes I'd helped tend every weekend. Never been more sure of anything. While waiting for Omar, I drove to the farmhouse, parked just outside the gate, watching the lights blazing in every window. Music thumped from inside, some pop song that would have made Grandma wince. Through the front windows, I could see Curtis directing movers who were already wrapping Grandma's antique mirrors in bubble wrap. My phone buzzed with a text from Lisa. "Hope you understand why things had to be this way. Blood is blood, after all." I touched the deed in my jacket pocket. Remembered Grandma's words from that day. "When they show you who they are." Omar called back. "Notices are ready. But you should know, this could get messy." "It's already messy," I replied, watching Laurel hang a gaudy new chandelier in the entryway. "They just don't know it yet." "Want me to file the paperwork first thing tomorrow?" I saw Curtis measuring the front porch columns, probably planning to replace the hand-carved wood with something more modern. Saw Lisa photographing Grandma's antique vases, likely for some auction site. No, I said. Let them celebrate a little longer. Let them think they've won. Tomorrow morning will be soon enough. I started my car, taking one last look at the house. My house. They thought blood meant more than love, more than loyalty, more than all those weekends I spent by Grandma's side while they were too busy to visit. Tomorrow, they'd learn exactly how wrong they were. My phone lit up with one final notification. Laurel, posting a photo of herself in Grandma's favorite reading chair. Caption reading, "New house, new beginnings." Blessed Samo family legacy. I smiled, thinking of the eviction notices sitting in Omar's office. Enjoy it while you can, I whispered, pulling away from the curb. Tomorrow, we'll see whose name is really on that gate. The memory of that day last year is crystal clear. I was helping Grandma sort through old photographs when she suddenly grabbed my hand, her grip surprisingly strong for someone so frail. My mind is going, she said, eyes sharp and focused. But I need you to understand something while I still can. I set down the photo album. What is it? You've been here every weekend, cooking my meals, organizing my medications, reading to me when the words get blurry. She pulled herself up straighter in her chair. The others? They send flowers, birthday cards, empty promises to visit. They're busy, I said automatically, the excuse I'd made for them countless times. No. Her voice was firm. They're waiting, like vultures, circling what they think will be theirs. She reached for her desk drawer, pulled out a thick envelope. I've been watching them all my life, the way they measure everything in dollars and bloodlines. But you, she squeezed my hand, you measure in love. Inside the envelope was a deed to the farmhouse. My hands trembled as I read it. Grandma, I can't. You can and you will. She pressed a pen into my hand. Omar is waiting in the kitchen. He's brought all the necessary paperwork. I knew Omar. He'd notarized documents for me before. But this? The others will fight it. Let them. She smiled. The same smile I'd seen in those old photographs. I'm still legally competent. Dr. Roberts confirmed it last week, and this is my property to give. Omar came in, set up his notary stamp and papers. Grandma insisted on videotaping the signing for posterity. Her hands were steady as she signed, her voice clear as she stated her intentions. $1, she said afterward, holding out her hand. That's the legal requirement for a valid sale. I placed the coin in her palm. She closed her fingers around it like it was precious gold. Now, she said, one more thing. She pulled out a letter, sealed in a cream envelope. When they show you who they are, and they will, open this. It'll remind you whose name belongs on that gate. Present day, I sat in the county clerk's office, that same letter in my lap while the clerk verified the deed's filing. Everything appears to be in order, she said, handing me certified copies. The property transfer was properly recorded last year. My phone buzzed. Terry calling again. This time I answered. I need to tell you something, he said, voice low, about the will reading yesterday. I'm at the county clerk's office, I replied. Want to meet for coffee? 20 minutes later, we sat in a quiet corner of the local diner. Terry looked older than he had at the funeral, more worn. I knew about the deed, he confessed, stirring his coffee endlessly. Francesca told me right after she signed it. Made me promise not to tell anyone. But you let them go through with the will reading anyway. He winced. Hallie, your mother, she threatened to report me to the Bar Association. Said she'd claim I took advantage of Francesca's declining mental state to change her will. But you didn't change anything. No. He pulled out a folder. But look at these dates. The will they're using? It was modified 3 days after Francesca's first dementia evaluation, the one that showed early cognitive decline. I studied the documents, so they used her condition, To pressure her into changing the will, yes. But the deed? He tapped the certified copy on the table. That was signed months before, when she was still sharp as a tack. It's ironclad. My phone lit up with another Instagram notification. Laurel, posting photos of contractors measuring Grandma's rooms. Goodbye dated wallpaper, time to bring this old house into the modern era. I opened Grandma's letter finally, her familiar handwriting bringing tears to my eyes. My dearest Maeve. By now they've shown their true colors. Remember this. A house is built of wood and stone, but a home is built of love and memory. You built this home with me, hour by hour, day by day, while they built only castles in the air. They'll call you an outsider. Remember that love makes its own family. They'll say you have no right. Remember that rights are earned, not born. They'll demand what they think is theirs. Remember that this house knows your heart as its own. With all my love, Grandma. I folded the letter carefully, tucked it away with the deed. What will you do? Terry asked. Through the diner window, I could see moving trucks heading toward the farmhouse. Time to show them whose name was really on that gate. Exactly what Grandma taught me, I said, standing up. I'm going home. Terry nodded slowly. They won't leave quietly. They don't have a choice. I gathered my papers, and Grandma made sure I have everything I need to prove it. I heard the moving trucks before I saw them, their diesel engines rumbling up the long driveway. I was already sitting on Grandma's front porch, wearing her vintage sunglasses and favorite gardening boots, when Laurel's SUV led the procession. The look on her face when she saw me was worth every second of waiting. "What are you doing here?" she demanded, stumbling slightly in her designer heels as she marched across the gravel. "Protecting my property," I said calmly, holding up the stack of papers Omar had prepared. Curtis emerged from their SUV, already barking orders at the moving crew. "Start with the dining room furniture. That antique set is worth a fortune." "Nobody's touching anything," I called out, my voice carrying across the yard. "This is private property, and you're all trespassing." Laurel laughed, but it sounded hollow. "Private property? Did you miss the will reading yesterday? This house belongs to me now." I stood up slowly, deliberately. "No, it doesn't. This house was sold to me last year, for $1 and a lifetime of actual love." "What are you talking about?" Curtis stormed up the porch steps. I held out the deed. Legal transfer of property, signed and notarized while Grandma was still mentally competent. "The house is mine." Laurel snatched the paper, her face turning an interesting shade of red as she read. "This is forged. It has to be. County clerk's office verified it this morning." I smiled, channeling Grandma's quiet confidence. "Would you like to see the video of Grandma signing it? She was very thorough about documentation." "You manipulated her," Curtis snarled. "Took advantage of a sick old woman." "Really?" I pulled out my phone. "Should we call Dr. Roberts? Ask about Grandma's cognitive evaluation dates? The ones that mysteriously lined up with your new will?" The color drained from Laurel's face. "You can't do this," she whispered. "I already have." I handed her an eviction notice. "You have 1 hour to remove yourselves and your moving trucks from my property." "Your property?" Curtis laughed harshly. "You're not even real family. That's where you're wrong." I pulled out Grandma's letter, held it up so they could see her distinctive handwriting. "I have the law, the land, and the last word. Would you like me to call the police, or will you leave on your own?" Laurel's hands shook as she read the letter. "This isn't over. Actually, it is." I stepped forward, forcing her to step back. "Grandma saw exactly who you all were. Vultures circling, waiting to pick her legacy clean. But she chose differently. She chose love over blood." "We'll fight this," Curtis threatened, pulling out his phone. "I'm calling our lawyer right now." "Go ahead." I sat back down in Grandma's porch rocker. "I'm sure they'd love to hear about how you pressured a woman with early dementia into changing her will. Terry has quite a file on that, by the way." More cars were arriving now. Lisa's Mercedes, Milena's hybrid. They gathered at the bottom of the porch steps, a chorus of shocked faces and angry mutters. "Get off my porch," I said quietly. "Get off my property. Take your moving trucks and your renovation plans and your entitled assumptions with you. You can't just," Laurel started. "I can. I did. I am." I stood up one final time, channeling every ounce of Grandma Steele's spine. This house knows who really loved it, who really loved her. And it's not any of you. Lisa stepped forward, always ready to play peacemaker when it suited her. "Maeve, surely we can work something out. The time for working things out was before you all celebrated cutting me out, before you called me a fake daughter, before you started planning to erase every trace of Grandma from these walls." I pulled out my phone. "You have 53 minutes before I call the police. I suggest you use them wisely." They stood there, frozen, until Curtis finally grabbed Laurel's arm. "Come on, we'll call the lawyers from home." One by one, they retreated. Laurel paused at the bottom step, tears of rage in her eyes. "You'll regret this." "No," I said softly, "I really won't." I watched them leave, a parade of expensive cars and moving trucks kicking up dust on their way out. When the last vehicle disappeared around the bend, I finally let myself breathe. The house seemed to exhale with me, settling back into its familiar creaks and whispers. I walked inside, running my hand along the wallpaper Laurel had planned to tear down. In the kitchen, Grandma's copper pots still hung exactly where she left them. Everything exactly as it should be. My phone buzzed, a text from Omar. "Need me to come over? Make sure they're really gone?" "No," I typed back. "The house knows who it belongs to now." I sat in Grandma's kitchen, in the warm afternoon light she loved so much, and finally opened the gate ledger she'd kept for 40 years. On the last page, in her perfect script, "The gate opens for love, not blood. Time to change the locks and add my name to that gate." The war started with a text from Milena. "Everyone's meeting at Mom's house to discuss the situation. Please come. We can work this out." I didn't respond, but I wasn't surprised when my phone started ringing 10 minutes later. "They're saying you manipulated Grandma," Milena said, her voice tight with anxiety. "Laurel's hired some hotshot lawyer from the city. Let them waste their money. Maeve, please. This is tearing the family apart." I looked around Grandma's kitchen, where I'd spent countless hours helping her organize her medications. The family was already torn apart. You all just didn't notice because you were too busy planning how to split up her things. The next call came from Lisa. "Be reasonable," she said, as if she were talking to a child. "We could work out a shared arrangement. Like how you shared time with Grandma when she was sick? Oh, wait, you didn't. That's not fair. Neither was excluding me from the will reading. Funny how that works." By afternoon, my mother finally called. I let it go to voicemail, but her message was crystal clear. "This behavior is exactly why you were never really one of us." I was reviewing property tax documents when Terry called with news that made my blood run cold. "I've been going through the old files," he said. "Something's not right about the timing of that last will change." "What do you mean?" Francesca's dementia diagnosis was officially recorded on March 15th. The will was changed on March 18th. But look at this. He sent me a photo of a medical document. Her doctor noted significant cognitive decline 2 months earlier. So someone deliberately waited to file the official diagnosis. They needed her legally competent just long enough to sign the new will. I felt sick. "Can you prove it?" "I'm meeting with Dr. Roberts tomorrow. He feels guilty. Says there was pressure from certain family members to delay the paperwork." A knock at the door interrupted us. It was Milena, looking uncomfortable in the fading light. "Can we talk?" she asked. I let her in, watching as she took in the unchanged interior. "Still looks like Grandma's house," she said softly. "That's because it is Grandma's house. just with my name on the deed. She sank into a kitchen chair. Laurel's saying you took advantage of Grandma's condition, that you manipulated her into signing over the property. Interesting accusation, I said, thinking of Terry's revelation, coming from people who delayed a dementia diagnosis to change a will. Melena's head snapped up. What? Ask your sister about March 15th versus January's medical reports. Ask her why Dr. Roberts suddenly changed his timeline. I didn't know. You didn't want to know. None of you did. You just wanted what you thought you deserved. My phone buzzed. An email from Laurel's lawyer demanding immediate property access for assessment purposes. They're not going to stop, Melena warned. Neither am I. She stood up, smoothing her skirt nervously. I should go. But Maeve, be careful. Laurel's really angry. And when she's angry, she what? Shows her true colors? I walked her to the door. That's fine. Grandma made sure I had everything I need to handle true colors. After she left, I called Terry back. How soon can you get Dr. Roberts to make a statement? He's willing to meet tomorrow. Says he has documentation of every phone call, every visit where they pushed him to adjust his timeline. I thought of all those weekends I spent here, watching Grandma struggle with her fading memory while the others were too busy to visit. How they'd swooped in only when there was something to gain. My phone lit up with another text from my mother. You're making a mistake. Blood always wins in the end. I walked to Grandma's study, where her favorite photo still hung, the two of us in the garden last summer, her hands teaching mine how to prune roses. Below it, her handwritten note, to my real family, the one who stays. Blood always wins, I texted back. We'll see about that. Terry called again. There's more? I found emails, dozens of them. Your mother and Laurel coordinating with each other about when to file the diagnosis. They were planning this for months. I sat in Grandma's chair, feeling its familiar comfort. Send me everything. What are you going to do? Through the window, I could see the rose garden where Grandma and I had spent so many hours, where she taught me that love grows deeper than blood, stronger than DNA. I'm going to do exactly what Grandma would do, I said. I'm going to prove that family isn't about blood. It's about truth. They won't like that. They haven't liked anything so far. I touched the frame of our garden photo, but Grandma didn't give me this house to make them happy. She gave it to me to keep it honest. After hanging up, I opened my laptop and started writing. Dear Dr. Roberts, I understand you have some truth to share about my grandmother's will. The meeting with Dr. Roberts took place in his office, with Terry present as my attorney. The doctor looked exhausted, hands shaking as he pulled out a thick file. I should have spoken up sooner, he said, spreading documents across his desk. But Hallie, your mother, she was very persuasive. Tell me everything, I said. He pointed to a medical evaluation dated January 12th. This was when I first documented significant cognitive decline. Your grandmother was having trouble remembering recent events, confusing dates. But the official diagnosis wasn't filed until March. Hallie called me every day for weeks. He pulled out a phone log, begging me to delay the paperwork, said she needed time to get Francesca's affairs in order. Terry leaned forward. Did she mention the will specifically? Not directly, but Laurel came to see me. He handed me a letter, threatened to report me to the medical board if I filed the diagnosis before, as she put it, certain family matters were settled. My hands clenched around the paper. They knew exactly what they were doing. There's more, Dr. Roberts said quietly. After the will was changed, Hallie tried to get me to backdate the diagnosis, make it seem like Francesca was already impaired when she signed the deed over to you. But you didn't. No. That's when I started documenting everything. He pushed a USB drive across the desk. Every phone call, every visit, every threat. I even recorded some conversations, legally, since this is a one-party consent state. I was about to respond when my phone buzzed, a text from Rachel. Someone's at the farmhouse. Looks like they're trying to get in. Excuse me, I said, standing quickly. I need to go. Terry drove me back to the house. We found Curtis and two men in workmen's uniforms trying to force the side door. Step away from my property, I called out, phone already recording. Curtis spun around, face red. We're here to assess the structure. Laurel's lawyer approved it. Laurel's lawyer has no authority here. Terry stepped forward, legal pad in hand. Would you like me to document this attempted break-in? It's not a break-in, Curtis snarled. This house belongs to my wife. Actually, a new voice said, it doesn't. We all turned to see Omar walking up the drive, carrying more paperwork. I've just filed a restraining order. You're not allowed within 500 feet of this property. Curtis's face went from red to purple. You can't. I can, and I did. Omar handed him the document. Leave now, or I call the police. After they left, I found something stuck in the side door, a flash drive with a note attached. Watch this before it's too late. Inside, we gathered around my laptop. The drive contained a single video file, security camera footage from Grandma's study, dated 2 days before the will signing. Play it, Terry said softly. The footage showed Laurel and my mother in the study with Grandma, who looked confused and tired. Just sign here, Mother, Hallie was saying. It's for the best. But Maeve, Grandma started. Isn't real family, Laurel cut in. You know that. Blood is what matters. I watched my grandmother's hand shake as she reached for the pen. Watched my mother guide her signature. Where did this come from? I asked. Terry studied the timestamp. The security system. Milena managed it, didn't she? Before I could answer, something crashed through the front window. Glass shattered across the floor as a rock landed in the foyer. Note attached. Back off now, or the next thing we expose will destroy you. Omar was already calling the police while Terry collected the rock as evidence. But I was focused on the security footage still playing. After Grandma signed, the camera caught Laurel's triumphant smile. Finally. No more pretending that adopted brat deserves anything. Turn it off, I said quietly. Terry touched my shoulder. Maeve, this is exactly what we needed. Proof of coercion. No. I stood up, brushing glass fragments from my clothes. This is exactly what Grandma knew would happen. Why she made sure to sign the deed when she did. My phone buzzed. Milena, I'm the one who sent the video. There's more. So much more. Meet me? I looked at the shattered window, the threatening note, the footage of my own family's betrayal. Tell me something, I said to Terry. If I take this to court, they'll lose everything, he finished. The will fraud alone. Another text from Milena. Laurel's planning something big. You need to know the truth about what really happened with Grandma's care. I touched the frame of Grandma's photo, now dusted with broken glass. Set up the meeting, I told Terry. It's time everyone knew exactly what kind of family they really are. Omar picked up the rock, studying the note. You know they won't stop. Good, I said, watching the security footage loop again, because neither will I. The emergency probate court hearing felt like a final showdown. Laurel and my mother sat on one side with their expensive lawyer, while I sat with Terry on the other. The judge, a stern-faced woman in her 60s, studied the stack of evidence before her. Let me be clear, she said, looking over her reading glasses. You're challenging the validity of a property deed signed and notarized months before any documented cognitive decline? Laurel's lawyer stood. Your Honor, we have evidence suggesting undue influence. What you have, Terry interrupted, is a documented conspiracy to delay a medical diagnosis for financial gain. He handed the clerk Dr. Roberts' USB drive, including recorded conversations and emails proving intentional manipulation of medical records. The judge's expression darkened as she watched the security footage from Grandma's study. When it finished, she turned to Laurel and my mother. Would either of you care to explain this? My mother stood, perfectly composed as always. Your Honor, We were protecting the family legacy. Maeve isn't even... If you say I'm not real family one more time, I cut in, standing up, I'll play the recording of you threatening Dr. Roberts to backdate Grandma's diagnosis. The courtroom went silent. I have something to say, a quiet voice called from the back. Milena walked forward, clutching a folder, about what really happened during Grandma's final year. Laurel half rose. Milena, don't you dare. Tell the truth? Milena's voice shook but held firm. About how you and Mom blocked Grandma's caregivers from coming. How you canceled her appointments whenever Maeve couldn't drive her. She handed the folder to the judge. I kept records. Dates, times, screenshots of text messages planning how to isolate Grandma until she agreed to change the will. The judge flipped through the documents, her frown deepening. Mrs. Gardner, she addressed Laurel, are you aware that intentionally interfering with medical care for financial gain is a criminal offense? Laurel's lawyer whispered urgently in her ear, but she shoved him away. Everything we did was to protect what belonged to real family. Real family? I stood again, pulling out Grandma's letter. I was there every weekend, every doctor's appointment, every midnight call when she was confused or scared. Where were you? Planning how to redecorate her house? Milena answered quietly. I have those texts too. The judge held up her hand. I've seen enough. She turned to Terry. The deed to Ms. Maeve? Signed January 3rd, he replied. 3 months before any cognitive issues were documented, witnessed, notarized, and videotaped. Your Honor, Laurel's lawyer tried one last time. Surely the timing suggests, the judge cut in, that Mrs. Francesca West was of sound mind when she chose to sell her property to the one person who actually cared for her. She straightened her papers. The deed stands. Furthermore, I'm referring this case to the district attorney for investigation of will fraud and medical interference. My mother stood up so fast her chair toppled. You can't do this. She's not even my daughter. No, I said quietly. I'm not. I'm something better. I'm the person Grandma chose. The judge's gavel came down hard. This hearing is concluded. The property remains with Ms. Maeve, and I strongly suggest the rest of you retain criminal defense attorneys. In the courthouse hallway, Laurel grabbed my arm. You've ruined everything. No, I pulled free. You did that yourselves. Every time you chose greed over love. Every time you said blood mattered more than care. You're not even... She started. Family? I finished. You're right. I'm not your family. I'm better than that. I'm Grandma's chosen heir. And unlike you, I earned it. Milena approached cautiously. I'm so sorry I didn't speak up sooner. Why did you? Because Grandma always said the truth finds its way home. She handed me one last envelope. She gave me this before the end. Said to give it to you if things went bad. Inside was a photo I'd never seen. Grandma as a young woman holding a baby. On the back, her handwriting. Family isn't who shares your blood. Family is who shares your heart. I chose you, Maeve. Never let anyone make you doubt that. Terry touched my shoulder. Ready to go home. Home. To the farmhouse where Grandma taught me about love that runs deeper than DNA. Where she showed me that family is built, not born. Yes, I said, watching my mother and Laurel huddled with their lawyer, their perfectly crafted world crumbling around them. I'm ready to go home. As we left the courthouse, my phone buzzed with a news alert. Local family estate battle reveals shocking fraud scheme. They'll lose everything, Terry said quietly. They already did, I replied, thinking of Grandma's words. Family is who shares your heart. They just didn't know it until now. The farmhouse waited ahead, its windows gleaming in the afternoon sun. My house, my home, my legacy. Not by blood, but by love. And in the end, that was worth more than any inheritance. The morning after the court hearing, I walked through each room of the farmhouse, touching familiar surfaces. remembering. Grandma's paintings still hung exactly where she'd placed them. Landscapes of the property through changing seasons, each one signed with her distinctive flourish. The doorbell rang. Rachel stood on the porch with coffee and a newspaper. "Your front page news," she said, handing me both. "The DA's office is opening a formal investigation. Have you seen the social media fallout?" Laurel deleted all her accounts after the third news story broke. Rachel settled into a kitchen chair. "But the real question is, what are you going to do with the house?" Before I could answer, Omar arrived with a stack of papers. "Final property documents," he said. "And something interesting. Grandma had plans drawn up for the place. Never filed them, but—" He spread architectural drawings across the kitchen table. The farmhouse transformed into a community library and art space, with reading rooms and gallery walls. "She drew these last summer," I said softly, recognizing her handwriting in the margins. "We talked about it during her lucid days, making the house into something that would last." A knock at the door interrupted us. Terry stood there with Dr. Roberts. "Your mother and Laurel took plea deals this morning," Terry announced. "They're facing fines and probation." The DA was feeling generous. "They've also been removed from the hospital's board of directors," Dr. Roberts added. "The medical ethics committee was displeased." I studied Grandma's drawings. "Good. Now we can focus on what matters." Rachel picked up one of the sketches. "You're really going to do this? Turn it into a library?" "Not just a library." I pulled out the construction permits I'd been working on. A place for art classes, reading programs, community gatherings, everything Grandma wanted. "The family will talk," Omar warned. "Let them. They've lost the right to have any say." Another knock. Milena, looking uncertain. "I brought Grandma's old art supplies from my house. Thought they should come home." I hesitated, then opened the door wider. "Come see what we're planning." Her eyes widened at the drawings. "The library project?" She told me about this once. Said it was her dream for the place. "Want to help make it happen?" She looked up, surprised. "You'd let me?" "Grandma always said talent should be shared." I handed her one of the sketches. She meant the house to be a gift to everyone, not a prize for a few. The next few hours were a blur of planning and possibilities. Rachel offering to coordinate with local schools. Omar connecting us with community organizations. Dr. Roberts suggesting art therapy programs. As evening fell, I found myself alone on the porch, watching the sunset paint the gardens gold. A car pulled up, Lisa stepping out cautiously. "Before you ask," she said quickly, "I'm not here to fight. She held out a box. "Found these in my attic. Grandma's old photographs. Thought they belonged here." Inside were dozens of pictures, family gatherings, holiday celebrations, quiet moments. And in so many of them, there I was, reading to Grandma, gardening together, learning to paint at her side. "She loved you," Lisa said quietly. "We were too blind to see it wasn't about blood at all." "No," I agreed. "It was about choice, and she chose to make this place mean something more." After she left, I hung one of the photos beside Grandma's newest painting spot, now transformed into a children's reading nook. In it, we sat at her easel, her hands guiding mine across a canvas. The doorbell rang one final time. A delivery man held out a package. From Terry Palmer's office? Inside was a new sign for the front gate, professionally carved, "The Francesca West Community Library and Arts Center, where family grows through heart." I traced the letters, remembering Grandma's words. When they show you who they are, you show them whose name is on the gate. My phone buzzed. A local arts council offering partnership. Then again, a literacy program wanting to collaborate. And again, a children's theater group asking about space. Standing in the warm evening light, surrounded by Grandma's paintings and her dreams for this place, I finally understood. She hadn't just given me a house, she'd given me a purpose. I hung the new sign on the gate. its letters catching the last rays of sun. Tomorrow, contractors would begin transforming rooms into reading spaces. Next week, art classes would start in the converted barn. But tonight, in the quiet of the house that love built, I picked up one of Grandma's old paintbrushes and began to sketch. Not a landscape this time, but a future, bright, open, and welcoming to all, just as she'd always meant it to be.